Hello guys, welcome back to round 5 of the Candidates Tournament. Grandmaster Pepe Cuenca, International Master Anna Rudolf. We are here to cover today's actions.
Yeah, hi Anita and everybody. After a short break that we had, we come back to the action now and go through the openings, right?
Exactly, we were predicting the results already, so let's get to the openings and see what happened. I think this is the most surprising today, that Caruana has chosen to play the Benoni.
The Benoni, yeah, we don't see this opening many times in the top tournaments, and it's nice to see this opening because actually you get a lot of double-edged positions and interesting positions.
Exactly, but it's not played so often because it doesn't have that good of a reputation, even though I think there are so many club players who love the Benoni because you have a lot of dynamism in the position, but among the elite players it's not a common opening. So today we will see if Caruana tries too much to win after yesterday's mistake, or why did he choose the Benoni?
Yeah, I mean, some people will say it's not a great time to choose this kind of openings after what happened yesterday. But I think he's really brave and he wants to go for the win, and he wants to get some double-edged position where he can have some hopes for getting a win. So let's see the opening, how it went. c4, e6, knight f3, and here we're used to see b6, for example, the Queen's Indian in many games in this tournament, but he went for c5, the Benoni. After d5, d6, we have reached the start of the position of the Benoni opening, ed, cd, and now g6.
I want to see if he has ever played against Aronian the Benoni, but
okay.
I don't think we will reach it.
No, he always played here d5, right, in this position.
It's just to surprise him today.
So after Aronian, he played actually d5 in 3 games, I guess.
Yeah, Caruana played it against
Caruana. And
so they reached the Catalan in most of the games.
So, g6, and now there are many possible plans. One of the ideas is just to go g3, bishop g2, castles, and then just bring your knight to d2 and c4. Normally c4 is a proper proper square for the knight, where you can put some pressure on the d6 pawn. And normally you play a4 just to avoid this knight to be kicked back from the c4 square. As well, many plans like e4, like it was played in the game, bishop g7, and now bishop e2, normal development, right? And Anita is gonna tell me what is the main line here after bishop e2, castles, I guess.
Exactly, castle.
Castles.
All the games have been following the same route, and here the most common move is rook e8.
Yeah.
But I think it can still transpose after knight d7.
Rook e8, he played rook e8 here, actually.
Okay, I thought he played.
Now you want to take this pawn on e4, and of course you have to defend this guy, knight d2, knight bd7, and queen c2. He went for knight e5 here, and b3. Of course, one could think, what's going on if I just play f4, right, in this position? Yeah, you can go knight e to g4, and then you have always problems with this e3 square. Let's say knight to...
It's too soon to push f4.
Exactly, and now you want to go knight c4. You can't just take here. There are some beautiful tricks here, like knight takes, bishop d4 check, and let's say if king h1, there are some queen to h2, or even knight takes
queen
h2.
h4 and knight h2. Also, in some positions, you have bishop f5.
Exactly.
I don't know this variation, but it just looks like there's so much tactics going on here.
Yeah, bishop d4 and then knight h2, for example, looks extremely interesting for black. So you cannot really go f4 that quick. You have to prepare it. So b3 was played here by Aronian. For what I knew here it was possible.
A4 is the main move.
A4, yeah. And nobody played h3 here. Looks like a natural move.
h3 is also...
It's also possible, right? Now you want to go f4.
a4 is the most common, h3 is the second most common, and b3 was also played. So these 3 options.
Okay, and b3 was played as well. Of course, you want to develop this guy by a b2. And here, Fabiano played bishop g4. Only 3 games, I see, with this position, right?
Yeah, but no bishop
No
g4.
Bishop g4, knight to g4 was the move.
Yeah, exactly. So among the recent games, there's no bishop g4. There's one game between 2 strong players, Fedoseev against Grover. The white players 26-74. He played this b3 line, but there are only a few games in this position. So actually, we are already in a territory where There are not many games before, and the players, I'm not sure if they are still in the book, but they know these openings, all of them so well that even if they don't remember the exact moves, they know the plans.
All right, so now the first move that comes to my mind is just takes on g4, h3, and then f4. Let's just try it. So bishop takes, and for example, knight takes, h3. Now you just have to go back to e5, and now f4. There is no other square than d7, so you have to go to d7. And what's going on here? You have a lot of space, but at the end of the day, you can have a lot of weaknesses as well. There are some ideas with knight h5 coming because the g3 square is weak, and then yeah, bishop d4 is coming, and the queen can come to h4. There are so many interesting ideas with black here. Of course, if you don't do anything on green, then your lack of space would be really bad at the end of the day. So knight can come to c4, but you can meanwhile you have also this strong diagonal here for the bishop. So
I guess white should develop the bishop to b2, but I also wouldn't like to have this black bishop appearing on d4.
Yeah, for example, knight h5 now, and now one bishop is coming to d4 probably. And the queen can come to h4, some knights to g3, so this is quite interesting. So maybe this line is not that strong for white. So let's say, for example, f3. This is the other move that comes to my mind. f3, you just have to go back maybe to d7. I'm always a little bit scared to put this bishop.
What if your knight is trapped?
Yeah, so I'm always a little bit scared because now you have no square for this knight. So for example, let's say some h3 move. I know there are so many interesting ideas here with knight h5, f4, and then just so many crazy stuff here. For example, yeah, even knight to g4 here, because you cannot take everything, because at the end of the day there's a check here on d4 and the queen is coming to h4. Let's say, for example, h takes. So now bishop d4 and then king h1, queen to h4 is just checkmate.
That would be beautiful, but I'm afraid that for Caruana, that Aronia will play in a better way.
All right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So.
But it's a nice motive, and you have to be very precise here with white and careful at the same time.
Exactly. It looks like you can win this piece kind of easy, or at least it looks like this guy has to go back to c8, but it's not that easy. There are so many tricks here in the Benoni. But okay, so people are saying that Aronian already took on g4. Bishop takes. And he took with the f knight. Knight f takes g4. And here I guess h3 is the most common move. You have to go back. And this is a crucial moment. I think maybe f4 is a little bit...
It's too soon to play it. You can go first bishop b2, prepare for f4.
You can go bishop b2, you can go rook a1, or then play f4, trying to bring a knight to c4, put some pressure on the d6 pawn. So... yeah, interesting opening. Let's see what happens after knight f takes c4. So should we go to other game?
Let's see the opening in the other games as well, exactly.
All right, so let's go to Topalov versus Karyakin. Karyakin, the sole lead of the tournament, +2 for him. So d4, knight f6, c4. I'll just put the... okay, knight f6. c4, e6, knight to f3, and b6. The Queen's Indian. We have seen a lot of Queen's Indian in this tournament. And
yeah, almost every round there's a Queen's Indian.
Exactly, yeah. So g3 and bishop a6, b3, and bishop b4. After bishop d2, bishop e7, can look, we said this already, but can look like black wasted a tempo here, just giving this check and develop the bishop on d2. But actually, the most interesting square for this knight is d2. So maybe white will have to waste another tempo to move this bishop, maybe to f4 or to c1 back, as we saw in many games already. So this bishop b4 is a really normal move. Now knight to c3, d5. Of course, now you have to take, because there is no other interesting way of defending the c4 pawn. C takes, e takes, and bishop g2.
I don't see any Queen's Indian between the two players, but of course they...
okay.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but Karyakin, it's a Queen's Indian player.
Yeah.
So
he plays it with both colors. We have seen that. And actually, when he played against Anish Giri, Anish said that he was not expecting Karyakin playing the Queen's Indian because he won so nicely against the Queen's Indian the previous round against Nakamura that he thought that he wouldn't play it with the black pieces.
Exactly, yeah. So tell me, after castles, rook e8, we already saw this move in 2 games, I guess. Rook b1, wow, this looks to me like a novelty. It should be a novelty, or almost a weird move. Normally you just go queen to c2 or bishop to c1. We saw this move already in 2 of the games. Queen c2 is a really normal move. You just want to continue with knight e5 and then maybe bring a rook to d1, just playing in a prophylactic way, because black would love to play c5 and then this rook will be extremely well placed in the d file. And we also saw bishop c1. This bishop normally is well placed on b2, because in f4 on g5 normally his knight can come to d7 and f8 and then can come to e6. So the bishop on f4 will be target at some point. So
let me see if I can find any games in this position.
Rook b1 looks really strange to me. I mean, normally you want to go rook c1 in this kind of positions and the other rook to d1. But maybe the idea is could be to go b4 and b5 in this position. Maybe. So you want to avoid the c5 break very soon.
It seems to be a novelty, at least among the recent games. I cannot see any rook b1s. So if it really happened on the board, then it must be Topalov's novelty.
Wow, really interesting novelty. Let's say black continues in his normal way. So let's say now he goes back to b7. This is a really natural move. Now the bishop is better placed on this diagonal. And let's say b4. Maybe this is the idea. Of course, now the rook from b1 supports this guy on b4, and of course it's now more difficult to break with c5, since this file can be opened and there are problems with this guy. Let's say c5 now is not possible because now there is a boom here. Rook takes b7.
This should be the main idea behind rook b1. I agree that it's not just to support b4, but also the b7 bishop will be hanging.
Exactly. So let's see what Karjakin played against rook b1. He played c5. Yeah, it's better to go c5 maybe straight away, because if you don't play c5, white would go b4 and then it will be harder to
Definitely.
go c5. Yeah, so he went for c5, d takes, b takes, and knight to e5. And we have this structure, this pawn structure that you were
hanging pawns.
Hanging pawns that can be. You have a lot of space with black here, you have a lot of center, but you see the power of this guy here, and this knight can also put some pressure. So let's see. He went to bishop b7. This is really natural move, defending on the d5 pawn, and now bishop f4. My question is, was not possible to go bishop g5 in this position? I just want to take here and then maybe h6, and if you take, bishop takes. And now this e5 knight.
Yeah, you don't have time to capture.
Yeah, you don't have time to capture on d5, right? So
you can even be in trouble because both knights are hanging there after bishop
exactly,
takes
after
f6.
bishop b5, h6, bishop takes, bishop takes. Now there is a nice pin here. So bishop f4. And I like white position normally in this kind of structures. Seems to me to play is easier with white here. I mean, now maybe I would love to go rook c1 and knight a4, maybe putting some pressure on the c5, queen to d2, rook ft1. It's not easy to play d4 because there is always this bishop hanging here on b7. The queen hasn't got a proper square. Let's say b6, you have always this jump to a4, d6 or c7 is not possible because there is this pin here. And queen on c8, you can always go rook c1, and it's not that easy to play, right?
True, but I think Karjakin is an expert in this position with both colors, so I'm expecting that he will manage to handle this position as well.
Exactly. So one idea maybe is just bishop f8. You just want to go g5 here in this position.
g5, that's a funny threat, actually.
Yeah, that's a funny threat, yeah. Maybe it's not that the end of the world. Let's say you play something like queen to d2. g5 works? I'm not so sure. You can take on f7. And then take on g5, and this is extremely double-edged, right?
So you have 2 pawns for the piece.
Yeah, and then
plus
d5 is gonna fall.
Very weak king.
Yeah, d5 is gonna fall probably because now this knight actually is pinned by this guy on g5. But maybe bishop f8 or bishop d6 can also be a move here. The thing is, can I take here? Normally you can take now with the knight because there is always a discover check here. So let's.
What's going on in this position? The b7 bishop will be hanging at the end.
Yeah, for example, bishop takes e5 and now knight f6. And then just bishop b7 winning on the spot, right? And then if you take on d5, bishop takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and then this guy here on e5 is defended. So it's interesting to see what Karjakin is gonna play in this position. Wow, and we have some more moves.
A lot more moves, it seems like.
Yeah, he went for bishop f8 and then rook b2. Well, funny move. You wanna go rook d2 here?
I like the idea.
Yeah, I like the idea as well.
That's an interesting rook swing.
Exactly. Then queen c2 maybe, and then bring the other rook to d1. So much pressure on the d5 pawn. So interesting idea by Topalov.
Yeah, this rook b1 could be a very interesting novelty.
Yeah.
I will check if I can find any old games with this rook b1, but to me it seems like a novelty.
I really like this idea. Guys, I'm learning a lot in this candidate. So many new stuff.
Too. Rook b1.
Rook b1. The idea is not just go to b4, but in some positions just go rook b2 and then rook d2, because these hanging pawns are kind of weak and you can put a lot of pressure. Really great idea. So what about g5 now? This is a critical test now, I guess. I think you have to take on f7. There is no other move. If you go back, just this guy is hanging. So you have to take on f7, king takes, and bishop g5. And what's going on here, guys? Tell me, Anita, what's going on? I don't understand anything.
Do you think I understand anything here? There's no rook b1 at all in my database, so it should be a novelty, something that Topalov prepared, and I'm sure that he's aware of these ideas with sacrificing the knight on f7 and then bishop g5. But this is just, imagine how Karjakin should be thinking now if he hasn't seen this. I mean, it's a novelty. You are not supposed to know this rook b1 unless you analyze all the possibilities in this position. So this must have been a surprise for him, and he has to react in the best way. But this is not that easy. It's not like some simple strategic maneuvering position. Here he has to calculate all these crazy sacrifices with knight takes f7.
Yeah. I think now this d5 is gonna fall in the next move, even though. So rook d2, and then what do you do here? And how can you develop your pieces? If you play knight to d7, then this pawn is actually just taken in the next move, and 3 pawns for the piece, and the king is just very weak. So I will take white I will completely take white in this position. So really interesting maneuver by Topalov. Rook b1, rook b2, and rook d2
Exactly. Do you think that the last player, because Topalov is on -2, can beat the leader?
I mean, he has to beat somebody if he wants to do something in this tournament. And Topalov is really aggressive player. I mean, he doesn't mind so much about the result. At least that is what he says.
Yeah, he just enjoys playing.
He really enjoys playing. So I think he would go for the win here. Of course, everybody.
Let's see what can he do instead of g5.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Instead of g5, the thing is, okay, let's say you develop normally, like with knight d7. The thing is, can I take here on
d5 now?
On d5.
Let's see. If knight takes.
Knight takes, you can take here, and then you take with the bishop.
Because now there's nothing hanging on b7.
And then knight d5. The thing is, you take on a8, you can just take here, and then you have 2 pieces for the rook.
Yeah, and without this g2 bishop, so you don't really want to give up that bishop.
Yeah, so this should be okay for black. So knight d7, and what's going on here? There are always ideas with knight c4 and then trying to jump to d6, or even knight c4 followed by knight e3, because this bishop is still hanging, so you will put a lot of pressure, followed by rook d2. So for example, knight c4, really interesting move. Let's say black does nothing, for example, h6, so you are threatening to take on d5 now, actually, so you have to do something. Let's say knight to b6. Yeah, and then there are both moves, knight a5.
I like knight a5, I wanted to say, because it's an annoying move, but maybe it's not so good, I don't know.
This is interesting, right? And Karjakin has to calculate all this stuff. Still, you cannot take on c4, so you can make an useful move, like, for example, bishop g5, increasing your pressure on the d5 pawn, followed by rook c2.
Yeah, rook d2, and this pawn is gonna fall.
Exactly.
How can you protect it with so many pieces?
Yeah, exactly. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces protecting the d5 pawn, but I have 1, 2, and 3, and 4 attacking, and this pin on g5. So interesting. And of course, you can take the knight on b6 as well. So let's say rook b8 just to defend this guy here. You can take on b6, and then rook d2, d4, this kind of move, and e3. Yeah.
Yeah, there are pins everywhere. Before the b7 bishop was hanging, and now it's the queen on d8, so it's not so easy to get out of this position with black.
Exactly, and I think Karjakin is already thinking. So So he is not aware probably about this idea of rook b1 and rook b2, of course.
It's a surprising idea and a novelty by Vasilin Topalov.
Exactly.
I thought that yesterday's saving the day for him, because he should have lost. He was lost, but he managed to save half a point against Caruana.
Yeah.
Gave him some confidence, because if you survive such a position...
Yeah, it feels like you won the game.
Yes, it's a victory to survive that position.
Exactly. So people are saying Panerch, Stockfish, one engine recommending knight takes f7 against a couple of replies. Wow, this really could happen. So for example, knight f7 here, knight f7, king takes, and now knight to d5. Some stuff like this. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is enough. The idea is that now you cannot take everything on d5 because the king cannot go back to a safe place. And then, yeah, you are threatening to play something like knight f6, the bishop on f7 is hanging, rook d2 is coming. This is extremely interesting. There is some jump to c7 as well. Wow. Wow, Anita, we are going to have fun today here.
I know, and I agree with Abbas, who said that once you trail all the pressure taken off and you can play some really attacking chess like Topa is doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are -2, you can't really expect to win the tournament. There are still a lot of rounds left, so it's not impossible, but I agree that once you believe that, okay, now I have nothing to lose, you just go for it. And this is really Topalov style anyway, attacking aggressive chess.
Exactly. Malte is saying in the chat, is there a day where Topalov doesn't sacrifice everything?
Not really, I think.
I mean, yesterday was not a
He's
sacrifice, was a desperate move. He had to go for knight h3 just to put, to create some mess.
You know what he blundered there? Because I listened to the press conference and he said that he saw knight takes d6, but he thought that he had knight takes d5 and rook f3.
And rook f3, yeah, and the pawn is on g2, yeah.
He forgot that there's a pawn on g2.
Yeah.
So imagine, because he must have been calculating knight h3 and there g takes h3, so the f3 square is available, but then he thought knight takes d5 and there's no pawn on g2 and there was a pawn on g2, so what a confusing...
No, this happens to all of us chess players. You get crazy calculating some line, you forget there are some pieces. Of course, this happens, even to the best players. So, okay, we'll see. A lot of interesting ideas in this game. I really like this maneuver with rook b1 and rook b2. Now you really have to be concrete. You have to create something. I mean, if you just play slow, for example, knight a6, you can just go rook d2 here, knight c7. There's so much pressure on the d5 pawn. There are these ideas with knight c4 and knight a5 and knight to e3. Bishop g5 is coming. Wow.
Yeah, maybe he won't sacrifice an f7. In case of g5, he will probably do that. He should do that in the previous positions. But even if there's no knight takes f7, knight c4, and all those ideas that Pepe has showed, really annoying, this position.
Exactly. So, maybe it's time to go for another game. What do you think?
Definitely. I just see a comment about the player's outfit that Topalov is wearing his lucky shiny blue pants today. Do you have any lucky items? Lucky pen or lucky t-shirt? Lucky... Not
really. I'm not a lucky guy. Do you?
Not really. But I think there are many players who do believe in things like that. I'm not sure that on the elite level this still exists, but there are players who are superstitious, of course.
And for example, you remember he was writing in his score sheet.
Yeah, just some
all these kind of motivation sentences.
Letters.
But that cost him a full point, yeah? So
let's change. You already changed the cartoons. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, but because everyone in the chat is saying that Naka has such a good score against Vichy, and it's true. You can see that he has won 6 games against Vichy, drawn 10, and only lost 1.
Yeah, but today he's got black pieces, and he's not in his best shape. And Anand has a lot of supporters in the chat supporting him.
So many people from India. We can understand that.
Exactly, but okay, the position looks a little bit dry, so let's go through the opening. So we have a Berlin. What a surprise, Anita.
Yeah, what a surprise. Every round there's a Berlin.
And Anand goes for the anti-Berlin with d3 and bishop c5. Main line, castles and knight to d4. Yeah, the other main line is just to go d6 in this position. We saw a game the other day with this variation. But after knight d4, knight takes, bishop takes. Of course, you don't want to take with this guy with the e-pawn. Now there is e5, for example. It's a really great move, and this bishop is doing nothing here, so you normally take with the bishop. Has a nice diagonal here. And he went for knight d2. I think c3 is also possible, and knight d2. I think this idea, I saw it from Robin van Kampen in one of his games.
Who's going to commentate here soon. In a few days he's coming to Hamburg too.
I'm not sure if this is the exact moment, but I saw one game that he won pretty smoothly in the Tata Steel. Not this year, I think the previous year. Maybe I'm just confused. But okay, the idea is pretty simple. Now you want to go knight f3, and then this pawn on e5 is hanging if you come back with your bishop. So you have to do something about it. He goes for a6 in this position, bishop a4 and b5. Aggressive play by Nakamura, bishop b3 and d6. Important move, otherwise if you just castles here, then knight f3 is really good move. So you're gonna win the bishop pair because now you cannot move the bishop. You have to go something like d6, and then you can take this guy. And of course this is a really good position for white with the bishop pair.
I see one game between Anand and Nakamura with the very same line, but it's not the same position that we reached, because after bishop c5, if we can go back to that moment,
we can.
It was bishop takes c6 instead of castle.
Yeah, and I recommend to all of you guys one game played by Wei Yi with this kind in this precise line, where he went for something like knight bd2, queen e2 and h4. It's the game Wei Yi versus Navarra. I think it's analyzed by Jan Gustafsson in YouTube, so you can take a look.
So let's see the current position in this game, because after knight d4, knight takes, bishop takes, all this thing that you have mentioned, knight d2, a6, bishop a4 and b5, as you said.
d6, important move.
And here, there are not so many games already.
Okay.
There were 2 games with knight f3, one with c3 and one with h3.
So a4 is a novelty.
Yeah, it might transpose later because a4 is a normal move.
Yeah, and after bishop b6, the question is, can I take here on b5?
That's a good question. It's pinned.
But it's not winning a pawn because there is bishop g4, intermediate move, and then f3 is not possible because there is a pin here. So you have to go for knight f3, and now you can take back on b5. And we don't have any gains from here, right?
Well, once again, a new position. There are so many novelties in this tournament.
Exactly. So we reach a pretty, symmetric position. You have this guy here, you have this guy here. You can go bishop g5, and then it's completely symmetric. Okay, he went for rook a8, queen to a8, and now h3. This move is normal. You want to ask this bishop where he wants to go, if to the h5 and then to this diagonal. Normally it's better to just go to retreat to e6, and bishop takes, f takes, and this is the position. What are the ideas for white in this position? Anna, tell me, what do you think?
If I could know this position, the only thing I see is that they have exchanged so many pieces already, and black will of course castle queenside, and he will already have a semi-open fight for his rook. I like black's center because even though you cannot really push them, it's a very solid center.
Yeah.
Every square is under control in the center. Maybe the only thing is that, after castle, I like moves like knight h5, knight f4. If the knight can get to f4, I think it can be dangerous on the king side.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm not sure what to do here with white. For example, let's say bishop g5, castles, and now what to play, how to continue. I guess queen to d2 is a normal move. It's not easy to go for this kind of flank with c3 and d4 because there is always troubles with the e4 pawn. So I think Nakamura managed to get a really nice position and almost equalize pretty fast.
Yeah, but perhaps this is already an equal position where I think I would prefer black already.
Yeah, maybe. You have a little... Okay, you have double pawns here on the e-file, but you have some active ideas in mind, right?
And for Nakamura, I think it's more important to have this open f5, moves like knight h5, knight g3, knight h5, knight f4. Some ideas. Of course, there's not much danger going on with so few pieces.
Yeah.
But still, there's some play in this position. It's not a boring position for sure.
Yeah, and Pramod in the chat is asking, how can Anand attack the black pawns? So, I mean, it's difficult. You can try to put some pressure on the b5 pawn, maybe some queen b4 at some point, but it's really easy to defend this guy. So queen c6, for example, or c6 at some point.
Yeah, you can try to place the queen on b3 if you want to go for this,
Yes,
like queen b3.
c3 and queen to b3 with a double attack here.
Both.
Yeah, people are saying that Anand went for knight to h2 here. Knight to h2. Okay, it's a normal plan as well. You want to go maybe knight to g5, or knight to g4, so bishop g5, and then take knight g4, something like this. Or maybe king h1 followed by f4. But I guess after castles, let's say this is nothing special, right? Black could even think about going for d5 in this position. And this knight on h2, not so sure what's the plan for Anand.
Not so easy to find one, because this position already seems to be comfortable for black. So how do you create problems for black?
Yeah, I don't see any concrete idea to pose problems for black. Yeah, I like this idea with c3 here. But the thing is, black maybe can try to even play something like queen a4. And this kind of endgame, I think, is just nothing. Maybe b takes, and then bishop d2, okay.
Well, the question is if this a4 pawn will fall.
Yeah. But maybe instead of, you can play queen to a2 as well. So you avoid this queen to b3. The queen is in an active place defending e6.
I like queen a2, yeah.
Yeah, queen a2 seems to be a good move here.
Ambitious pawn is saying, let's get this out of the way. Where is Jan? Jan is coming later. Jan is in the building today, so
where is Jan?
He will be
and
here.
Where are the moves? Yeah,
we have the moves, so nobody
moves, yeah?
should complain. We have the moves. Jan is in the house.
And we don't have Jan, so
I've just seen him, so he will be here soon. He's very elegant today.
He's actually commentating on the German side, right?
Not right now. Now it's Ilya and Fiona, but
Okay.
I think later he will join the German commentary and R1 too. So stay here because Jan is in the building. He's wearing a suit. Today is a suit day, and yeah,
He's a suit guy.
we are feeling a bit less elegant today as Jan.
Yeah,
You will see.
I'm just shit compared to Jan. Yeah.
Just casual.
Yeah. So Gambit player is saying Vichy has made in 354 moves according to the engine on 2000 cores.
Well, I need to analyze that data.
Yeah. So knight to h2, actually, I will go for something like c3 maybe, or bishop g5. Yeah, but as I told you guys, it's not easy to create something concrete here for Anand. And I think Nakamura managed to equalize pretty easily. And we'll see what's going on. Let's go to the last game that we have today. Anish Giri versus Peter Svirde. Both players extremely well prepared in this tournament.
Yes, Oliver is saying that Giri has a nice position. He will never be worse.
So, let's go through the opening. So we have a Grunfeld kind of position.
For the first time, because even though it's Peter Svidler's favorite opening, he has a video series on the Grunfeld. He's an expert on the Grunfeld. But he played the Slav defense twice already in this event.
But now it's time for a Grunfeld for Peter.
Time for a change.
Yeah, time for a change. So, normally c6 and queen to b3. This is a possibility. Normally, people try to castles, and then there this kind of symmetric position after castles. You know, c takes, and now knight to e5 or knight c3, knight c6, knight to e5. This kind of position has been played thousands of games in this kind of tournaments.
Exactly, just a slightly better position for white, but it's possible to play for a win.
Yeah. So queen to b3. Let me know.
Yeah, let me check the previous games also between the two players.
Yeah, people are trying even strange stuff here against this opening. I remember some people trying to delay the develop of this knight, just going c4 and then e3, and then this knight to e2. But okay, queen to b3, castles, and castles a5. Normally, I like to respond to a5 with some knight to c3 here. But you can try even to go a4 here in this position, because after takes, there is d takes c4, and now, of course, queen takes c4 is not possible due to b5. And Victor is saying, I can't deal with this uncertainty about Jan. I need my daily Jan. Give it to me now. He needs his doses,
yeah?
He will
be here. Jan is actually doing the Game of the Day videos every day, so even the day when he could not join the commentary, he came later to analyze the best game of the round. So at least that video clip you have every day, but today he will join the commentary as well. Stay here.
Yeah, Jan will give you your doses, guy. Your dose, right? Dose is the word, yeah? Okay, so as I was telling you guys, a5, even with knight c3, it's not sure that you stop these a4 ideas, because as I told you, knight to a4, now d takes e4, you have to go back, and then there are some bishop f5 moves with really active play for black. So he went for c takes d5, a4, intermediate move, queen to d1, and c takes. After knight c3, he went for knight to e4.
There are a few games only in this position.
Okay.
Instead of knight e4, the most popular choice here with black was queen a5. That was played by Barayev, for instance.
Sorry? After queen a5?
Yes, Barayev, the Russian
Okay.
grandmaster, went for queen a5. Instead, knight e4 was only tried in 2 games in the
Okay.
recent games, and not by any famous
Not by
player.
strong players, yeah? So knight e4, almost a novelty from Peters Builder. Learning so much in this tournament, Anita.
Yeah, actually the Indian grandmaster Kunta played it with white, so that's the only game we have between titled players.
And normally there are 2 ways to react to this kind of jumps. I mean, one is knight to g5 and the other one is knight to e5, right? I normally like this kind of knight e5 move. So you put some pressure now on the e4 knight. For example, let's say at the knight c3, b takes c3, and now you plan to go, maybe you plan to go knight f3 in some lines, knight d3, sorry. Bishop a3 or bishop f4, this kind of positions. The other way is knight to g5 to remove this knight from here. Let's say knight takes, bishop takes, and now you have a lot of pressure on the d5 pawn, and it's not so easy to defend it. Let's say bishop e6 looks artificial and the a4 pawn is hanging as well.
Yeah, there can be some problems because of this push, but anyway, I'm sure that Peter knows what he's doing, and this is his preparation.
What's the combination of Anna and Jan? People are saying Janita.
Yeah, that could be.
Janita is, yeah,
That
your
could be.
fusion.
And actually, Mike has tweeted us. He's saying that Jan is good, but Jose and Anna are great. Hashtag baboom. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So, knight e4. It's an interesting moment to think here. So many choices. Knight e5, knight g5, knight to d2. I like all of them, actually. The thing is, why I cannot take on a4? This is the first question we have to solve here for you guys. Knight takes e4. The idea could be queen to a5. And of course, now you cannot go back, really.
Yeah, and if you have to go b3.
Yeah, you have to go b3. There is always these v5 ideas. And now you
Looks a bit like a Benoni or some kind of a...
Yes,
No, not a Benoni,
some
sorry,
kind of
a
Benko,
Benko,
right?
I wanted to say, where you sacrifice a pawn on the queen side and then you will have active play on the queen side and normally win it back.
Exactly. This is not possible because of baboom on c5. Yeah. And if you go knight to b2, there are so many active ideas.
weird
Knight
already.
c6, putting some pressure on d4. It's nothing, I mean, concrete, but it's...
Yeah, we are not winning back the pawn,
Yeah.
but
let's say
black
knight
has
c6.
very active pieces and this
E3.
position for sure compensates. You have the a5, so white can never really activate this rook from a1 unless you push a4.
Yeah, I mean, if I am playing, this is the truth. If I am playing with a 1600 player, I would think that he
blundered
the
pawn.
a4 pawn. But if Peter's Builder in front of me, then I would think it twice before taking this guy on a4, right? So
What do we have in the other games?
okay, let's go back to the other games with this interesting Benoni from Levon Aronian, from Fabiano Caruana versus Levon Aronian.
Oh yeah, when we should change the cartoons.
Yeah, we should change the cartoons. That's completely right, Anita. Okay.
So we had this position. Are there any new moves here? Bishop b2,
Yeah.
a6.
Bishop
was
b2,
played.
a6, and he went for h3 here. I'm wondering what's going on if you just go queen to h4, just h3, right?
Yeah,
then there's nothing
no mate
on
threat,
f2.
unfortunately for black.
Okay.
It's not that it is easy to attack, but h3 is logical because we want to play f4 later.
Yeah. So knight to f6, and then, as I told you guys, if you gotta go f4 and then have everything under control, you wanna go rook a e1 just to protect the e4 pawn later. And yeah, this is looks a reasonable move to me. So rook a e1. Black can try to create some counterplay here on the queen side. Let's say f4, knight to d7. There are some ideas with rook c8, c4, bringing a knight to c5 later and to d3. There are some holes here as well for black. And if black manages to hold this e5 break, should be okay. But as soon as white manages to play e5, maybe you are completely lost.
Yeah, that's the big question in the Benoni. Can white break through with e5? Exactly. And here in this position, I wouldn't be that worried with black because it seems to be pretty much under control, the e5 square.
Yeah, you have... okay, maybe there are some ideas with knight f3, for example. So let's say knight f3 here.
But then knight h5, this pawn is always hanging, and knight g3.
Exactly. Knight h5 is really annoying when you have the knight on f3. This pawn on Fiona is hanging. And there are ideas with knight g3, f5, breaking the pawn chains. And this bishop, knight, pawn, and rook controls pretty well the e5 break. So, not so easy to push this pawn to e5. Let's try another way. Let's try knight d1, knight f2, and knight d3. So is this that crazy? Knight
Let's
d1.
see. It seems to be a bit slow, but maybe you have, if like for instance rook c8,
yeah,
you
rook
try
c8
to play for this c4 push at some point.
And knight f2, and then maybe just now c4 is interesting.
Yeah, let's see if it works, because if you capture everything, that this pin must be
yeah
within a piece.
Knight b6, and a lot of pain for white here. Yeah.
So if you cannot capture the pawn, that means that we managed to push c4, and we are planning to play knight c5.
Yeah, knight c5, and then you can put a lot of pressure on the e4, knight d3, and some lines is coming. Queen to b6. Yeah, many active ideas for black here as well, not just for white. But maybe bishop c3 here in this position, blocking the c4 pawn. Not so sure what's going on. I actually like white structure here, because looks so dangerous, this e5 break at some point.
Yeah, we just need to protect the d5 pawn as well, so that's why it would be nice to have the bishop on f3, but there's no light squared bishop anymore.
Yeah.
Pramod is saying, isn't it normal to have a4 for white in the Benoni structure to stop b5? And he's completely right that many times white plays with a4 to prevent b5.
So for example, let's say here a4, right? Yeah, it's interesting here, and I will consider it, of course. I don't like it so much when I have a pawn already on b3 instead of b2, but you could think about this. So let's say, for example, knight e d7, just being prophylactic, and now knight to c4, queen to e7, this kind of moves. You want to go rook b8 and b5 later. It's possible. I mean, it's pretty normal. So yeah, I would consider it, this playing a4 in this position. The thing is, you want to stop first black's counterplay on the queen side, or you want to go directly for this f4 break and e5?
Perfect Champion has a funny question. Who has more chance against Carlsen, Anand or Vishy?
Yeah. Think both. Vishy has a chance against Magnus. I wouldn't say he
yeah, I think if they play once again, this would be the most interesting match, because the first one he was suffering, the second one he already did better, so the third time could be...
Yeah, you never know. Maybe he will be completely crushed, you know, so you never know.
Yeah, we never know, and we don't know if Vishy will win this event. So far it's Karyakin leading, and the second place is where Aronyan is with +1.
Yeah, and what it's clear to me is the guy who wins this tournament, it's because it has a... It's
you deserve it.
Yeah, it deserves it, and it's in a great shape. And
that will be the best challenger.
Yeah, that will be the best
Carlsen.
challenger. Yeah.
So to play the candidates, you had to qualify for this event. That's already a big thing to qualify for the candidates. And secondly, to win it, that means that you are ready to face the world champion.
Mm-hmm. So, by the way, I have a friend called Anand. His house used to be 200 meters away from the house, from Vishy's house in Chennai.
So yeah? Anand is a common name then?
Anand is my friend is called Anand Krishnamurti.
Because Anand is a first name or surname. I'm always confused, because it's like the surnames are like the father's name, I think, in many Indian names. Yeah. So I'm always confused.
My friend always
sorry for everybody.
Used to tell me these stories, but I always forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm always confused with the Indian names. I'm really sorry that I don't have a better cultural knowledge on India.
Another question. Do you think, guys, that Spilder can win the tournament? What do you think?
Well, he's in a good shape. He has a very good preparation. All he needs is a push and start winning games. So we will see if he can start winning. That would mean his first victory. If it comes one of these days, it could mean that he can also win the event. But you have to start winning games.
Yeah, at some point. So they already played f4 here, and now it's time to think.
We have some answers from our Indian fans. Thank you guys for clarifying it. So Anand means happiness, and that's a first name.
Anand means happiness. Wow,
yes.
I didn't know this.
Vishwanathan is his last name, and also that is his father's name.
Okay.
And we are learning a lot from you guys. Thank you. So it's not only about chess, but culture as well.
Yeah, for sure. Am I so crazy if I just try to go here g4? I am, right? But for what? I mean, g5 is not really that interesting because knight h5 is coming, but maybe.
I wanted to ask, what's your plan? Because it seems to be like the last storm with those balls ahead, and then
what? Yeah.
Then the white king will be weak.
Because you never want to go f5, right, guys?
So this is square you cannot give up.
This is a terrible strategical move, right? Because this square now is so weak that this is never a great idea going for f5. Basically, g4 I think is not really. I mean, it's interesting, of course. Maybe you want to go g5 and then push f5. Just try to close this guy here with f6, but this is just too crazy, I think. So more natural moves like rook e1 or knight to d1, maybe just to go knight f2 or a4 as Pramod suggested in the chat. What do you think about the system that some of the guys is asking? 3 points for the win.
Yeah, I've just read this same question. I think it's interesting, but the only problem with chess is that many times a draw is a normal result because, well, if we look at the initial position, I mean, it's just 0-0-0. And also, if both players play perfectly, a draw is a normal result. So the only problem is I would of course, like to see a lot of fighting games and everybody going for the win, but at the same time, if both players play perfectly, that's a draw. So how do you force them fight, but at the same time not take away the merit from drawing? Because if you play perfectly and nobody makes a mistake, then that's a draw.
Yes. Some people think that actually this is a good system to punish draws that are not fought. But of course,
if it's a fought draw, then
like hundreds moves and
exactly, because there's a difference between quick draws and people playing for draws and a draw like yesterday, Caruana Topalov. Well, that was such a fighting game and nobody was playing for a draw in that game. So I don't know if there's a system that could actually give extra score for fighting chess. But in this candidates tournament, everyone is fighting, so we cannot blame anybody for boring chess.
Yeah,
there are only 4 games in every round, but most of them are always exciting.
Yeah, extremely interesting chess in this candidates tournament. So he went for knight to c4. Of course, this is pretty natural move. One of the reactions is just go knight b6. So at the same time you defend the d6 pawn. At the same time you want to remove one of the best pieces for white. This knight on c4 not only puts some pressure on the d6, but also helps this break on e5. So knight to b6 is really natural move. And my question is, can we go already for this kind of break with e5? Not really, because okay, maybe it's interesting. Rook takes e5, now queen, knight to a4. But you can always go, there are some checks here with c4, king h1, and now knight h5. And you see now the problem of this weakness, this g3 square. You had to play h3 in order to play f4. But once you have played f4, you have weakened the g3 square.
Exactly, that's a hole in white's position, so you have to be careful about these knight h5 moves.
Yeah. So not so easy to push your pawn to e5. Would be a dream for white, but it's never easy in the Benoni. And Fabiano Caramana.
New name. So we have carjacking, we have Caramana.
Calamaro was a flamenco singer in Spain. Maybe that's why I got confused. I'm getting crazy already. All right.
Ivan Chuki is saying that Hare Krishna is the best Indian player now, and that's what we announced yesterday after Vishy's loss, that meant on the live rating list for Vichy to be second on the Indian list. So now with 0.3 rating, but Hare Krishna is number 1 in India.
Yeah, Hare Krishna is a really strong player and really nice guy as well.
Yeah, they are all very nice.
Yeah, that's true.
But of course, it doesn't mean anything. There are so many more rounds. So if Anand wins at least one game, he will get back his number 1 situation in India. And also, I think what matters for him is his rank among the world players, not only in his country, of course.
Exactly. So let's go back to Topi's game. This extremely interesting game between Karyakin and Topalov. He went for bishop d6, and this is the moment where we were thinking about different kind of moves. Knight to d5. Why I cannot take here? Why I cannot take here?
Let's analyze this, because our idea was that the bishop on b7 would be hanging in many lines. So if bishop takes e5, then we want to go knight f6.
Yeah, the thing is, at the end, this rook is also hanging.
Yeah.
So let's say bishop f6. And if bishop b6 or queen f6, probably the most natural move, you can take on b7, bishop takes b2, and bishop takes a8. This is just a pawn up.
It is.
And the bishop pair.
So what's wrong with knight d5, or is it a good...
What's wrong?
mean, if they allow this move, then it shouldn't work.
Yeah, so maybe just bishop d5. Now bishop takes. The thing is, bishop takes is not possible. It is. Bishop takes e5. And now, for example, rook d2.
What's going on here?
I'm
trying to understand who is winning a piece.
So let's say knight takes d5. And
Yeah.
now bishop takes d5. Bishop takes. And now it's time to think. What's going on? Why it's not possible? I think the only move is just bishop takes e5, right? Otherwise, this rook is just lost. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
Bishop takes e5. And what's going on after bishop e5?
Bishop e5. And here is where we have to think. Bishop takes a8 is just not possible because...
Now you are a piece down. So
Yeah, now
you
you are a
have
piece
to
down.
go, instead of this, you have to play rook d2. We threaten
Wow.
bishop a8.
Okay.
And if you play knight d5, rook d5, and they... What's going on
Because
there?
bishop takes e5 not possible because, for example, queen takes d5. But the question is, maybe rook d2 here works or not works? I mean...
Yeah, and what about knight d5 here? Because we are threatening bishop a8 and bishop takes f7 too.
maybe just knight to bd7, yeah? And 2 pieces for the rook. Yeah. That's bishop takes and queen takes.
Okay, yeah, I have 1 second opposition.
You still have rook d7 here, but at the end this pawn on e2 is hanging. So let's say bishop f4, gf4, and
This
knight
is a long
d7.
variation to calculate.
Yeah, and then just rook e2, and then black can never be worse, right?
What's that arrow from e2 to d7?
That's a nice move, yeah?
Yeah.
I can copyright that move, yeah?
My other question was, because after rook d2, I just wanted to see what's going on after knight takes d5.
Knight takes d5, the problem is actually you can take on d5.
Yeah, and there's no...
And then you have a problem on the back rank. So for example...
That is the problem.
Yeah.
Because if not, we could defend this bishop, but
Boom!
the back rank is weak. So that's why knight d7 is a better move, not knight takes d5. But does it mean that... No, it doesn't mean that we can capture on d5 because of this very long variation that we have seen.
Yeah, I think after bishop takes d5 followed by bishop takes and knight bd7, you get 2 pieces for the rook, and I think this is fine for black. So after bishop d6, now he played knight d3. And we already saw this maneuver in Wang Karyakin's game where he jumped with this knight to e5, d3, and then later on to f4, putting a lot of pressure on the d5 pawn. I'm wondering if this knight c4 is possible here. Maybe you just take on f4 and this is different. Now your structure here is ruined. But knight d3 is really interesting. You want to recapture here with the knight on f4. Okay, so Karyakin went knight a6. And how do you continue the pressure on these guys?
You should do something about this rook. So either rook d2 or rook c2.
Yeah, rook c2 or rook d2. I just like rook d2. Knight c7, I guess. This is normal move defending the d5 pawn.
And now what? Because I would like to place the knight on f4, but that means I have to capture on d6, and I don't want to capture on d6 yet.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna die.
Let's hope that he will not die today. Pepe, hang on.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, as you say, normally you don't want to capture on d6 because you develop the queen pretty fast and then the rooks are connected.
So we want to bring the knight to f4, but we would prefer that the opponent captures on f4. So is there any waiting move we can do? Rook d2?
Yeah, rook d2, knight
Knight
c7.
c7. And do we have any other useful moves here with white?
I mean, you can consider opening this d file, for example, with e4. This is that stupid. The thing is, I can take on c5.
That would
Not
be
to
brilliant.
c6, yeah. Would be a nice jump as well. But knight c5 is just crushing, I guess, because now it's so much pressure on all the pieces. The queen is pinned.
So after e4, you cannot capture d2, c4.
Or maybe you have to close the position
d4.
with d4.
But that means that you already fixed the pawn structure. That's what we want. When you play against the hanging pawns, you want to fix those pawns. But now everything is crazy on the board,
Yeah,
so
now
who
what's
captures
going on?
what?
What's going on here, yeah? Maybe knight c5 takes a knight b7, followed by e5. Not d6. e5 defending this guy and this guy. Taking on d2. Look, this pair of bishops.
This is a crazy line. Let's go once again and check it one move by move if we miss something.
So e4.
d4 maybe is a bad move because of bishop takes, d6.
The thing is, if you take here, of course, there is some like e5, yeah?
Oof.
After rook e5, bishop b7, d takes c3, and then couple of moves. You can take on e5, this is the most natural, and then,
c takes, d2, and moving the knight away, or taking...
Yeah, knight c4 maybe first, and then taking on a8, and this is just an exchange up for white, yeah? So...
Crazy lines, but... So after e4, is this any force?
I mean, you can take here first, so you avoid all this... You avoid all this e5 later. But for example...
What if knight takes?
Knight takes d4, I guess. And you have a lot of pressure here on the e4 pawn. So maybe you are not forced to move the knight yet because there is a pin here. So maybe first something like rook e1. And then something like knight e4. But you have troubles here with this guy. And I guess this is more or less equal already for black. Let's say queen e7 and something like knight a4 here. This is an interesting position. You have some maneuvers here with knight b2, knight c4, blocking all these guys here. And it's not so easy to take on this guy here because there is always this f3 later. Surabi is saying, can you guys commentate on Anand's game? Maybe we should go there.
Yeah, just one more...
Okay,
sorry, I just wanted to... Because this e4 seems to be so interesting. I would wonder if it's something Topalov is calculating right now, because, I mean, with rook d2, e4, the idea, I like a lot that there are so many tactical motives with this d6 bishop. Also, the b7 bishop can be hanging in many variations. So, I think this is something that he is definitely considering.
And they already considered some stuff because they already moved. So.
Let's see what they moved.
All right, so he took on d6.
Interesting. This is what we didn't want to do.
Yeah, and after queen takes, he went for knight f4. I mean, this is really direct play. You have 4 pieces attacking the d5 pawn. Now, black just has 3 pieces defending, so you have to defend this pawn. He went for queen to e5.
Yeah,
of
because
course,
it's pinned.
There is a pin here. And now, what to play here? Something like rook c2 looks natural to me, or queen to c1 or c2. c2 is not that natural to me because you want to bring this rook to the action at some point. So let's say queen to c1. Maybe rook d1, rook d2. Interesting.
Yeah, could be. It might be still Topalov's preparation.
We don't know the times, so we don't know how much time they consumed.
Yeah, what we know is that rook b1 must have been Topalov's novelty.
Yeah.
And so he definitely prepared this variation. We just don't know until what move. And it must have been a surprise for Karyakin.
Exactly. So black would love normally to play d4 maybe and exchanges this pair of guys and remove the pressure from the d5 pawn. But it's not that easy. You had to defend this guy. You had to lose so many tempi. Maybe rook a b8. But now something like knight a4. Interesting. Just aiming to take on c5 later. And followed by rook c2, rook d1. So much pressure on these hanging pawns. It's not that easy to play with this structure. You have to pay attention to all your weaknesses all the time.
If you remember Karyakin's game playing against the hanging pawns against Vichy, then
yeah,
now he's doing
that was a chess lesson. That was really amazing play.
Game, and now he has to defend the same pawn structure.
Okay. Yeah, so Anita, let's go to Anand's game.
Exactly. I will see if there are any new questions in the chat.
Okay, just let me know if the guys are asking something. So he went for knight h2, as we said, castles, and knight to g4. And my question is really anything this? I mean, after knight takes, and then I bring my queen, for example, queen to e8, for example. I mean, this kind of endgames should be completely equal, right? I mean, you have a lot of problems with the Fiona pawn on f2.
Always Fiona. Every game there's something
Yeah, so
wrong. Fiona is always hanging. Fiona is attacked.
yeah, everybody attacking
Poor
Fiona.
Fiona.
Poor Fiona. Some people are asking in the chat if queen e2 is interesting. So maybe it's what the engine says.
What an arrow.
Yeah, that's quite defending the mate there. But defending e6, I mean, I wouldn't play this move. I mean, it's not so human from my point of view. I think it's more human just to bring the queen to e8, just to exchange queens, and then you are completely safe here. Because maybe you can think on going king f2 and f4, some kind of stuff like this, but it's nothing, I think. I would go queen e8 here. Queen e8 and queen f7 maybe, just increasing your pressure on the f2 pawn. And it's not that easy. If you have to go for something like bishop e3, this is just completely equal, of course.
Definitely. This would lead to a quick draw if this happens on the board.
Exactly.
And Perfect Champion asked us, among these candidate players, who plays most likely like the computer? Who plays mostly like a computer?
Most of them play close to a computer, but for example, who is the most computerish guy here?
I would have said Caruana until we saw his yesterday's game, because Caruana, he plays in many tournament, in the Grand Chess Tour events, for example, he played so many games where he was having a bad position, he was in a difficult situation, and still he managed to defend it, because somehow it was like as if he did not fear, as if he didn't feel bad about having a bad position, and that's why I think that he was like a computer to me, because we humans fear, we have bad feelings, and then we make mistakes, but he can just stay calm and defend. But yesterday what we saw is that he was winning, and it must have been something very human that he made a mistake in that position. Maybe he was excited, he was nervous, something happened. If psychologically there was nothing going on, if he would have been calm, then he would have won the game.
Exactly.
So yeah, I thought it was Caruana, but yesterday even Caruana is a human.
Yeah, everybody's a human. I mean, we are made of bones and we have a heart. Yeah.
That some people forget sometimes.
So, some user is asking, how can we defend the f2 pawn here in this line after this idea of queen f7? So one easy way for you guys is just g3, and then after queen f7 you can play just king to g2.
Pepe is saying the easy way.
Well, the easy way is just to play queen g3, right? And then, but there's this smart way, I will say, just g3, queen f7 and king to g2. And now you cannot take on f2 because bishop e3 is winning or queen e2 is winning, since this guy is pinned here. So this is an easy way to defend this pawn on f2. And I talked to Lawrence yesterday about this. Yeah, he thinks that, of course, a lot of nerves from Fabiano Caruana. This is not normal for him, of course. Yeah, he's not happy about that, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Pramod is saying that he thinks that Anish plays more like a computer, and I agree with that too, because he almost makes no mistakes. He is perhaps the player who makes the least number of mistakes among all the players here, and maybe even including Magnus Carlsen. I already said that that's my opinion, that he barely makes mistakes, but it also means that he like no mistakes, but also he doesn't take that much of a risk.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this position is gonna be tough for Bishi to win. And Hikaru, I think he has no trouble at all. This guy on b6 is an extremely active bishop, creating a lot of trouble for white to do something in the king side. Yeah, I think it's just completely equal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Adam Adomino is saying what we have mentioned before, that Caruana at yesterday's press conference said that he thought that he was 2 pieces up and Topalov would only win back 1 piece. So it was something like really weird happening in his head. He was 1 piece up and then he would take 1 more.
Okay.
But also Topalov would take 1 with a check and win back the other. So there was no piece up left on the board. And somehow he believed that at the end of the variation he would still have a piece up.
Okay.
That's something so weird.
The birthday,
Yeah.
made them crazy.
Seems like. Do you think they had a birthday cake there in the playing hall?
I'm not sure, but for sure he celebrated somehow.
The arbiter singing happy birthday? Nah, not really.
Okay, so let's go to Anish Giri's game versus Peter's Builder. And Anish went here in this position for 92, one of the most solid continuations. And the thing is, if you take on d4, that could look like a reasonable move. There are few options here. I would consider even taking on d5 here, for example, but you can take, of course, on e4. Let's say knight takes d5. The idea is after queen takes, you can just take on e4 with your knight. And there are a lot of troubles here now for black, since the queen is pinned, and then there are some ideas with knight f6 coming. So that's why bishop d4 is not the best move. Knight c3 should be considered the way to play against this structure, because now you can play against...
Yeah, this backward pawn, but the question is if black can be quick. You have to develop your pieces very quickly. If not, maybe white can prepare for a c4 push.
Yeah, for example, like something like e3 and c4, opening this nice diagonal for the bishop here. And he went for queen a5. Did he really direct move, threatening to take on c3, and...
The Carlsen pawn, according to our audience.
Carlsen pawn.
That's the Carlsen pawn.
All right, I will say Carlitos. We call him Carlitos in Spanish.
This is the English commentary, Pepe. Carlsen pawn.
So queen to c2 was played in the game. I guess some of the moves like bishop b2, of course, runs into a3. Maybe bishop a3, aiming to take here, or to play bishop b4 was interesting as well. But he went for queen c2, and now bishop f5. e4, d takes, knight takes. And how can we evaluate this position? I mean, if black is quick to develop all his pieces, will be completely fine. I mean, knight d7, rook c8,
Exactly.
knight d6,
Also
knight
knight
c4,
d7,
or knight d5.
Yeah. I wanted to say that if the knight arrives on c4, that would be a really nice outpost for the black knight.
Exactly. There are also some interesting ideas with e5, trying to open even more this diagonal for this guy here, because now it has a wall against his pawns.
Once the rook is on c8, we are threatening to capture the d4 pawn, so there's a lot of activity here for black.
Yeah.
And I think that Peter enjoys this position. It's like in the Grunfeld that you give up the center, but at the same time you have this fianchetto bishop, you have open files, and you attack white's pawn structure. And
we cannot forget that also white player has a brain and can create some interesting ideas here.
Of course, it's Anish Giri playing with the white pieces. We are not expecting any mistakes from white side either.
Yeah, exactly. So here I would think something like bishop a3, putting some pressure on the e7 pawn, rook b1, increasing the pressure on the b7 pawn. This guy is a monster here on g2. So why d7 and why not knight c6? Of course, knight c6 is extremely normal move here. Normally I would think on trying to go for this c4 square or d5 square, with a rook on c8.
Knight d7 seems to be more in harmony with the rest of the pieces, and also to get to c4.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean,
although from c6 at least we attack the pawn on d4 after rook c8, knight b4 things.
Exactly, and from c6 you also defend the e7 pawn. So now maybe bishop a3 is really annoying, yeah?
Yeah, perhaps then it's better to play knight c6. At least the pawn is on e7 is defended.
Look how many arrows.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I think
guys.
we need to delete a few of them.
Sorry, guys. So knight c6, and as you say, after placing a rook on c8, there are some threats.
And knight d4 and also knight b4. So maybe it's better to go knight c6. We just thought that we would like to have this knight on c4, and what's the route to get there? Knight d7, knight b6, knight c4.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's too slow. That could be a reason why knight c6 is maybe better.
Knight d7, bishop a3, and now you have problems
it's a
here.
tempo, so if you have to go rook e8, then it's not good already. There are also some ideas with knight f6. Of course, you could try to play for this pin, but it's not that easy to exploit it.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Like knight f6 to try to play for the pin, but I mean, I don't know what's going on with bishop e7, rook e8, and maybe I'm might be lost. I don't know.
Yeah, you can take here.
Probably blunder something.
Bishop takes and bishop takes.
This.
I mean,
No.
This is interesting. I mean,
yeah,
but you
too
have
many
this
pawns.
too many pawns. Yeah.
No. The question was if there's any.
Maybe
I don't know.
94 here.
Yeah, but this is once again crazy.
Yeah, this is completely crazy. Knight c3. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, this is.
Of course, black doesn't have to enter in anything like this. Knight c6 protects the pawn.
And e5 is natural enough. I think after takes, the question is, okay, maybe now bishop h6 develops with a tempo, and rook e1, rook d1. I don't know who favors to open the position up here.
Latvian Gambit is saying that it's impossible to win games if you don't make babooms.
That's true, that's true. Whenever I win a game, I just do baboom in front of my opponent. No, guys, no. I never do this. I'm a great guy, just very calm.
I think he means the strength of the move. It has to be a baboom strength.
Yeah. We didn't see any baboon today yet.
Not yet,
we'll see.
but it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. All right, so...
And Perfect Champion is saying that Chess24 is proud of Peter's performance, and it's true that we are very proud how easily he makes a draw with black and playing for a win. So he's not playing for a draw at all. He was playing for a win with the black pieces against Nakamura. He almost managed to get the full point in that game, and he had no problem in any of the games.
Yeah, that's true. He is extremely well prepared. He put actually in trouble Levon Aronian as well, right? In this endgame yesterday, they got a pawn up, but...
So all his opponents had to play for equalizing, no matter with what color. So yeah, of course we are very proud of Peter, and we want to see him being the challenger of Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, I mean, every guy here, it would be extremely interesting to see against Magnus Carlsen. And guys, what do you think? Would Enspeeder continue doing Banter Blitz at Chess24 if he becomes the challenger? I'm sure he will continue doing some Banter Blitz for us, even if he's the champion of the moon.
Yeah, you should read his interview here on Chess24, because he said that he does the commentary and the Banter Blitz because he loves it. He enjoys so much doing that kind of work that's why he does it. Even if he doesn't have much time, he's a very busy person with his tournament schedules, but he just still joins the commentary and does Banter Blitz because he loves it.
I mean, and we don't realize how interesting it is to play against one of these guys. Imagine you can play a football game versus Cristiano Ronaldo or something.
Definitely. That's such an honor.
All right, so...
I have seen some comments on Wishy's game and some bishop c1 move. I missed the move. I can't see the comment anymore, but there was some interesting move according to the chat. Yeah, bishop c1, is that the move?
Bishop c1. I mean, if you play here bishop c1 in this position...
No, wait. What was the bishop is on c1? What?
Bishop is on c1.
I don't understand the comment.
You can say bishop c1, okay, it's your turn, yeah?
I don't understand the comment.
That would be interesting in a suit-1 position.
Maybe he meant that it's interesting that the bishop is still on c1.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand the comment.
We're still on this position.
It's true that from c1 is still active, so sometimes you don't need to move the bishop because now there's no rook on a1. You don't need to develop the bishop to bring a rook. Even if there was a rook, of course, there was already an a file open. But there are positions where you can have an active bishop even if it's on the back rank.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he referred to.
Exactly. So we have rook b1 played in Anish Giri's game. Rook b1, really natural move. Oh, he went for knight d7, actually. Knight d7. Rook b1, and it's time to think, what are we gonna do about this b7 pawn? Several ways to deal with this. One is b5, one is b6, the other one is rook ab8. I think this is just not possible. It's possible because after bishop f4 you have e5 here. You can just take with your knight, for example. So still, so many options here. I mean, b5 should be ideal if there are no troubles with the diagonal. It seems that there are not, because still we have this pin here. So you want to go with knight to b6 and then knight to c4 or d5, but the question is, what about after some move like bishop a3? It's pretty annoying. Let's say rook e8, bishop e4 maybe, queen to b6. Yeah, maybe it's time to unpin your queen.
Yeah, we like the maneuvers with knight d7. We were just wondering what happens to this e7 pawn. But also we don't know if there are any tactics with knight d7, bishop a3, knight f6 and something on the e5. We haven't calculated it.
You mean here bishop Rook b1.
Yeah,
You
because
mean
what's the current position?
Rook b1 was
Okay, no,
played.
there's no bishop a3. Sorry, no, I was talking about the bishop a3, bishop takes e7.
I mean, rook b1 is natural. Then the next move you are gonna go maybe bishop a3 anyway. So
perhaps, unless black pushes already e5.
yeah, maybe you mean here e5?
I don't know what's going on.
No, I just take this guy here on b7.
Okay, no, I thought I can win back the pawn.
You can win back the pawn maybe, but there
But
are
if you take
troubles.
on e5 first, then I'm not winning any pawn. Am I winning back the pawn? If
Yeah,
you
you
take
can.
there?
You can take. Yeah, you can try to take with the queen and then increase your pressure with rook e8 and knight c5 against this knight on
Maybe
e4.
it works, but yeah, this is the kind of moves that engines say, and then if you have to understand what's going on because there are pawns hanging everywhere.
Exactly. I mean, the most human way to play here is just to defend this guy.
Yeah, exactly. What moves do we have to defend the pawn?
I mean, b5 or rook av8, yeah, or b6. Just these three options. I will consider rook b8 and b5, for example. Let's say b5. And of course, if I am on time, I would love to play rook c8, knight b6, knight d5, and then take this guy on c3. But of course, after bishop a3, you have troubles here, rook f8, and for example, let's say queen e2, putting pressure on the b5 pawn, rook a b8. Yeah, interesting position. It's never easy to break on e5 because there are some weaknesses here in the d6 square. Yeah. So queen e8 was played by Hikaru in this position. And bishop e3 by Bishi. This is kind of not yet a draw offer because after bishop takes e3 you can still keep...
take with the knight, just not to copy the position, not to make it exactly symmetrical, but yes, it's a kind of an equal position and there's not much going on here. So Nakamura equalized very easily today against Vishy. That's surprising. I expected Vishy to cause problems to Nakamura and win today. On the other hand, their personal score is not favoring Vishy. Nakamura has won like 6 games against Vishy, I think.
Let's just put it there. Anand, now you can see. Yeah, 6 games.
And Chicago Davis saying about Levon's game that time for Levon to do a Penrose style sealer sweeper. E5, D takes F5.
Levon, let's go to
that
Levon.
that would be an idea.
Wow, and what's going on here? We need to go back.
Definitely. Let's catch up with this position. Knight c4, knight b6, rook a1.
Knight takes, and knight d7, controlling the e5 break. And then there's nice theme here. This e5, sacrificing a pawn, and now f5.
And that's what Chicago Davis suggesting. Very good suggestion.
Sending Fiona to the death here. f5. The idea is very simple. Now you can use this nice square for your knight, and then you have a pass pawn, and then you have some pressure in this diagonal, some pressure on the f file. Of course, there is a lot of compensation. Really interesting play by Levon Aronian.
I like this idea. You give up a pawn, but you get the e4 square, and it also means that the bishop on g7 is not active anymore.
Yeah, of course you have closed the diagonal for black's bishop. It was the best piece by far from black side. And now, yeah, you have many interesting ideas here. Knight to e4, and then maybe just rook f2 and rook f1. There are some jumps to d6. Yeah, there is a lot of pressure. Very interesting play by Levon Aronian. Let's see how Fabiano reacts to this idea. Of course, taking on e5, this is just terrible. I think you can just take with whatever piece you like. Knight takes e4, e5 for example, or bishop takes e5. This is not the same.
No, not at all now. The bishop is active and there will be this bishop d4 coming that we were afraid of. So now the black bishop is so active, that's why this e5 d takes f5 is a really interesting idea. I like that suggestion.
And people are saying Levon Aronian is not better anymore. Just, I mean, if you pay all the time attention to the engine,
don't do that.
chess is not that fun, yeah? I mean, we have a pawn down here, but the play is extremely interesting here.
It's such an unclear position. It doesn't matter what the engine says in this position. Even if the engine says here, advantage for black, that wouldn't mean that now suddenly it's so easy for black to win this game. This is just complicated.
Exactly. Yeah, you can try to react on the queen side with some b5 break. Still not so trivial to me how he's gonna do it. Maybe just sacrificing the pawn on b5. Levon has played f5, people are saying.
I like that. I like White's position here.
What about trying to give the pawn back
pawn.
up? But I think you can just take, and then you have a lot of weaknesses in the dark squares. Yeah.
Look at that position. 302 without the bishop on g7. We have said that this is really dangerous.
Yeah, and I agree with Pramod. One of the users is saying easy to play with white. I agree.
Yeah.
Next move is just knight to e4, maybe just rook f2 and rook f1, something like this, putting some pressure on the f7 pawn.
Yeah, once the knight is on e4, you always threaten knight d6 as well. The knight cannot go away from d7 because the c5 pawn would be hanging, so it's not easy for black. That's true. So
maybe it's time for Fabi to react quite quickly with some b5. Let's say you just play some calm move, like for example knight to e4. Yeah, there are some ideas with knight f6, trying to simplify the position, but still I think this is good for... This is interesting for black. Maybe that now, sorry, b6, some other moves. I like knight e4, sorry guys. Knight f6, and then maybe takes here, and h takes. There is always this queen to f2, and then problems for black here.
It will be already a winning position for white. You cannot do anything after queen f2.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just try to think, not just trust the engine. Sometimes we have to trust the engine, yeah? It's the only choice we have, but I think this is extremely interesting. Maybe the engine it says it's equal, but extremely interesting play from both sides here.
Yeah, the guys in the chat are saying that the computer suggests b5 in this
b5
position.
Here.
And yeah, this is the kind of computer chess. So you are a pawn up and you give it back immediately because you need to be active. So here, playing for queen b6 and doing something, and also this a2 pawn is hanging.
What's going on here? Knight d6, knight takes f7, f takes e6. I don't understand any moves here, Anita.
Nobody understands anything here except for the engine and the two players who are actually playing the game. So luckily they are the ones in the candidates and not us.
Exactly. And maybe d6, knight c7 as well, f takes, maybe queen f2, maybe knight c3 followed by knight e4 again. What's going on here?
It's a crazy position, so complicated, and if you guys say that this is an equal position, even if the engine says 0-0-0, this is never a draw.
Yeah, it could be a draw.
If they play precisely both, but you can make so many mistakes in this position.
Yeah, it's really crazy position after b5, and that's what we like to see. We like to see crazy positions, we like to see players making mistakes, sacrificing pieces and all this kind of stuff as a chess fans, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are two questions from B-Rod. One is, where's Jan? That's the usual question. He's coming later, he's in the building, and he's very elegant today.
He's still alive and in good shape and very healthy. So.
And his other question is, why can't he watch the broadcast on his phone? As far as I know, it cannot be opened from the app, but if you go, if you use just a browser on your phone and you open the same link as you are using on the computer, so Chess24's website, and then you go to the tournament, I think you should be able to play the video. At least that's what I know.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, One Feed the Master is saying b5, why is a computerish move? I mean, it seems natural to him. Yeah, I mean, it's a natural move. The feeling is that if you do nothing here with black, you will be crushed, because after this knight e4 ideas, rook f2, rook f1, you have to contemplate. You have to create contemplate really fast. The thing is that you want to prepare this b5. Of course, a4 is coming. So maybe there's just one opportunity to play b5, because otherwise a4 is coming.
Fabiano doesn't play b5 here, it might mean trouble for him already. So he has to find this engine move b5. But that's when we think, okay, Fabiano is capable of making moves like this and evaluating the position as an engine.
Yeah, I mean, if you think a little bit on the position, it's quite natural, because as we said, maybe after a4 you are not gonna play b5 anymore in your life. So
yeah, it's logical on the one hand. On the other hand, you're a pawn up and you have to give it back. So it's not so easy. For the engines, it's always easy, not for humans.
Okay. So what else do we have? We have some new moves in Topalov game. So they went for knight f4, queen e5, and rook c2. We were thinking about queen c1 with the ideas of bringing this rook to d2 in the past, but of course rook c2 is natural. You want to increase your pressure on the c5 pawn after son knight a4. He went for rook a d8 and knight a4. And the question is now, how are we going to defend this c5 pawn? Of course, it would be really stupid to go back with the rook to c8 after.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what else can you do here? How do you protect the pawn? Because I don't want to go queen d6.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, what's the idea? I don't see any reasonable...
Okay, knight e4 is an option.
Yeah, but knight e4 runs into knight d3 and then collecting this guy here. Maybe you can go to queen d6, yeah?
Something like this I was hoping for.
Because, of course, you're going to take on e4.
Yeah, if bishop takes d takes is a tempo.
Yeah. I mean, you can, but then e3 maybe it's coming even later.
Yeah, you don't really want to give up this g2 bishop.
So, yeah, knight e4 is an option, of course. Knight d7 is not because the d5 pawn is hanging. Okay, c4 is an option because after you take on c4, d takes c4, then your queen is...
That's actually a typical move with the hanging pawns. Once you have this d takes c4 with a tempo, so when the queen is hanging, in many positions you can go for this move. The question is, afterwards, what will happen to the c4 pawn?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you want to take on b3. But,
I mean, if d takes, moving the queen away, and will we lose this c4 pawn, or we have enough counterplay?
Or queen a1. These kind of endgames normally are good for white because these pawns are weak. Let's say queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes, and king takes, or knight takes even. Knight takes with the idea of coming to e3 and to put some more pressure on the c4 pawn. Yeah, this looks okay. Knight d3 also stops this rook from coming to e2. So yeah, this could be a pawn up in this kind of variation. So now, time to decide for kajaking if knight e4 or c4. I don't see any other reasonable try for black here in this position. And
we will see if he can find the best way. It's a bit unpleasant for black. So he is in a position something similar to what happened in his game yesterday against Vishy Anand, where Vishy had to play the most precise moves, and it was getting unpleasant with these hanging pawns. So unless you have enough counterplay and take the initiative, hanging pawns can be unpleasant because they are always under attack.
Yeah, and we are learning a lot from this tournament how to make maneuvers in order to put a lot of pressure to these two sad guys here, the c5 pawn and the d5 pawn, not supported by their colleagues.
Yeah. Surabi asked us before about Naka's game if it's something unusual that Naka played. The opening.
The opening?
Yeah, well...
I mean, this is the main line.
94, this is all main line. What is unusual in this game, maybe
this kind of ideas.
He pushed b5 very quickly, but still the idea is normally in the Spanish to play for b5. And here you can let white capture on b5 because bishop g4 will be a tempo and then you capture a6. So I think everything was pretty standard here. Even if there are not so many games in this line, the ideas are normal, what he played with black. And he equalized very easily.
Yeah, not the most exciting game today. Actually, Anand versus Hikaru Nakamura. I expect a draw in a few moves. Or maybe Anand can try to create something here because it has a little bit better structure.
It's so difficult to attack those pawns, but we said that maybe with the queen on b3, but even then it's like, how do you attack the e6 pawn with another piece?
Yeah, exactly.
Articom is asking if there's any draw rule. Not that we know of. In other events, there's the Sofia rule so that you cannot offer draw under move 30, but in this competition, we haven't seen anything in the regulations about the draw offered.
Exactly.
And another question by Cuber is if we agree with the statement that the one who makes the least amount of mistakes is likely to win.
I mean, it seems reasonable.
Yes, but on the other hand, like, Veselin made a lot of mistakes yesterday and he survived because the person who made the last mistake was Caruana.
Yeah.
So maybe the statement that for sure applies is the one who makes the last mistake normally loses or loses his advantage. So if you are winning, you might make a draw. But sometimes, even if you make a lot of mistakes, like Topalov blundered yesterday,
Yeah.
but Caruana gave back the favor afterwards.
Yeah, it's so complicated, this game, guys.
Yeah, you should watch Jan's analysis on that game on YouTube. Game of the day. Think we will go for a short break and then we will be back with the rest of the game.
That's true. We have to eat our chocolate.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, guys, just stay there. Don't go away. We'll be back in a few minutes.
And we will hopefully grab Jan and bring him in.
Yeah.
See you soon.
See you.
We are back from our chocolate break and loads of things have happened on the board since.
Yeah.
Look at this pawn structure in Vish's game.
Yeah, what happened here? Let's just go through the moves just to understand what happened before. So,
we said that this is quite an equal position. We didn't see any real chances for victory for either of the players, but then suddenly...
Yeah. So Nakamura cannot stay quiet. You know that he is a player who...
Yeah, he can't stay calm. He went for d5. Perhaps this was the position we thought instead of d5, just to make a move like rook a8 and not to touch the pawn structure because it's very solid and it's difficult for white to do anything about it. But after d5...
After d5, this pawn can be a little bit weak some endgames, right? And he decided to go for f3, really solid, Bish played, and then d4. Now you go knight g4, takes, and he went for h6 here. Now that the pawn structure is fixed, it may be interesting to go just rook a8 and try to activate your rook.
Yeah, but perhaps he played h6 because he was afraid of queen g5, attacking the e5 pawn.
Let's say rook a8, queen g5, yeah, maybe something like queen to d6, and now, yeah. But still, I think this is quite okay for black. You want to go maybe c4, c5, c4, yeah.
I agree that it might be optical that the queen is that strong on g5 because you would need a white rook as well to be active, and it's not so easy to activate it.
Okay, there is some plans here with king h2, rook h1, queen h5, and king g3, but this seems to be extremely
You can go
slow.
from f2 as well. King f2, rook h1.
Yeah, but I'm always afraid that this rook comes too fast here to take all these guys.
Maybe, but if you hide the king on g3, then it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same, and then there is some ideas of attacking the black king, yeah? But he decided to go for h6, just stopping this queen g5 check. And
also, it avoids some kind of g5. If you have the pawn on h7 and white pushes g5, then maybe he was afraid that at some point he will end up with a position where you would like to play h6 or g6, but the pawn structure is already...
Yeah. So h6 is a human move, and now some ideas with rook c1 and c3 can be really interesting. Putting some pressure on the c file. Let's say, for example, rook c1. Let's say you don't do anything like, for example, queen to d6, and now something like c3, for example. And let's say you take here queen to c3, and then suddenly you have a lot of pressure on the c file. You can bring your king to e2, it's pretty safe here. And then these endgames, these rook endgames, normally will favor white because there is a weakness here on the e5 pawn, yeah?
Yeah, also the c7 pawn is always hanging, so black has to be careful about this c3 breakthrough.
Yeah, so you never know in chess, you have to play until the end. Some slight inaccuracy can lead to troubles, right? So
we thought that there was no danger, and suddenly white's position is promising.
I mean, it's nothing special,
much,
but yeah.
But suddenly black has to be very precise.
Yeah, and as we say, this king is always really, really safe here on e2 or even on h2. So you can try to break with c3 in this kind of position. So we'll see. We have new moves as well in Aronian versus Fabiano Caruana, and this is getting extremely interesting.
Wow, what has happened since we went on a break? Because we saw the position after f5, very interesting idea, e5, d takes f5, this pawn sacrifice, to have the e4 outpost for the knight and also block the g7's bishop diagonal. So very nice pawn sacrifice from Levon Aronian, and we like white's position here.
Yeah, but Caruana reacted pretty quickly.
Found the best move, b5, giving back the pawn. That's the engine move, and that's the only way to equalize.
Yeah, so after knight e4, knight b6 was played. Of course, you want to take here with the c4. And now the critical test is c takes b5 and then see what happens here after taking on c5, wherever. But instead, Levon Aronian decided to go for bishop c1. I mean, it's understandable. He wants to go some kind of bishop g5.
And knight f6 afterwards, some attack against black's king.
According to the engine, this was not pretty good, as I saw in the break. Now after bishop knight takes c4, actually you want to take just on d5 and then collect 3 pawns. So now you have to pay really fast. Some move like bishop g5, just queen takes d5.
And if knight f6, we just take it.
Yeah.
And even though you normally don't want to give up that bishop for 3 pawns, if you are not being mated here, then this is just too much of an advantage for black.
You can just go queen to d6 after takes. For example, you can just talk with the f pawn. Just rook f8 follows.
Yeah, even rook a7 if you need on the 7th rank.
Yeah, rook a7 here and rook f7. And this is pretty good for black. So not so clear what to do here. I mean, some ideas with f takes maybe and h takes. Now something like queen f2, but doesn't seem to be enough. I mean, there are some, I mean, even f5 here. After knight g5, you just take on d5. And I don't see anything for white here.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ronyan believed in this bishop c1, because if you calculate a few moves ahead, then what is the point here?
I mean, this is extremely unclear. I mean,
of course, we are just saying that we don't see the clear idea for white, and you have already given up 2 pawns.
Okay, he played d6. And now the idea is actually after, you cannot take here because of rook d1, of course. And this is not so easy to play with black either. So what's a normal move here, you would say, with black? Something like queen to d7? And then maybe you can play g4 or even queen f2. It's not so easy. I mean, this is extremely double-edged. The engine says it's much better for black, but you have to be very precise in this position. Let's say this is...
I agree that it's not so easy for us human beings.
Exactly. One idea could be to take here on f5 with the idea that now you can take on d6. The idea is after rook d1, you can take on f5. And these are 2 rooks for a queen and a lot of healthy pawns, yeah?
So many pass pawns.
So many pass pawns. So that's one of the ideas. And one could think now after rook takes f5, queen takes, knight takes d6. There are so many intermediate moves here, like for example, bishop g5, rook to g5. This kind of move, for example, bishop g5, now what do you play? It's not that easy. Let's say, for example, queen to c7, and there are some ideas with knight f6. Yeah, it's an extremely difficult position.
It's a position that can be won and lost with both colors.
Yeah, I mean, according to the engine, it's better for black, but you have to be really precise here. And g takes f5 is not a human move here in this position, because you never want to open your king.
No, not at all.
And
so what's the human move here?
If you don't take, I would say it's just queen to d7. Queen to d7, just preparing to bring your other pieces, the rook to d8 in case you need it. And now you are threatening to take on f5, of course. So now it's time maybe to reinforce your f5, your Fiona pawn with g4.
With a Gusti pawn.
And it's not so clear. You can play rook d1, aiming to take on c5. This kind of moves. You can play bishop g5, followed by bishop e7. I mean, it's really unclear. So guys, don't think that the game is over because you see -1 in this bar, in this chess 24 bar. It's never easy, and it's really unclear.
Very complicated position for humans. The engine can say whatever he wants, but this is a position where nerves are important, and also what the players calculate on the board. Nobody is a computer, not even these top players.
Yeah, exactly. So, do we have any more development in other games? We see that Peter's builder went for queen to c7. It's another move to defend the b7 pawn, but now I really like White's position here. I really like Annie's position. You look at this guy here on g2. Look at this guy on g2 and this rook on b1 attacking the b7 pawn. He went for queen e2. It's really normal, just unpinning yourself, and then after rook f8, bishop e3. Just normal development. And he went for rook a b8. And now this pawn on a4 can be weak in some lines. You would love to have this pawn back to in a6.
Definitely.
Yeah?
Now it's something that we would like to take back, the pawn on a4. So I was thinking if we could just move the rook quickly away from the pin and double rooks on the b5.
You mean rook b4, for example?
Yeah, that attacks the pawn. We are preparing to double rooks.
And you are not able to play b5 because you can just take this guy. So how can you defend this pawn here? Let's just think on knight b6.
And if we go to the b5 now,
yeah,
rook
for example,
b1.
rook b1, knight to d5 maybe is the idea, and then you want to take on c3 later or on e3.
Okay, but then instead of rook b1,
yeah, you can go maybe queen to b5.
Then there's no knight d5 then.
There's no knight d5 here. This could be a little bit annoying for black. Yeah? So how to defend
the pawn after rook b4?
Rook b4. Strong move by Anita.
I just wanted to unpin the rook, and this is a tempo.
Yeah, so maybe you had to play quick here. You had to create some counterplay with some e5. But the question is, what about if I just take this guy here on a4? Maybe you have some ideas related with knight b6, winning a tempo.
Yeah, and I would be worried about the e5 here a bit for white, but maybe there's nothing after the e takes d4 and this knight hanging. I don't know what's going on there.
Ah, you mean here? Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I completely forgot about the action of this rook. So this e5 is really interesting. So maybe after e5, what about if I just close the position with d5? So now you don't have any ideas on this file, and then I can continue with c4 and c5 even.
I'd like to see if there are any comments about this game in the chat.
The question.
Because it's a very interesting position between Anish Giri and Peter Svidler.
And he went for your move, Anita. He went for rook b4.
It's not a difficult move, I think. It's just a very logical.
One of the most logical questions here is, can I take the pawn on c3? So bishop takes c4, bishop takes, and queen takes c3. Of course, now there are many possibilities. You can go rook fe1. You're going to get some pawns back for sure.
The a4 pawn.
Yeah.
It's not sure whether to take immediately or first rook fb1 or rook b7. Yeah. There are so many options.
The thing is now you can take on d4. So maybe you can just go queen to b5 as well. Just aiming to take on a4 with your queen, targeting the d7 knight, and you can go maybe just rook fb1 here. Now you want to take on a4, there are no knight b6 jump, and you have the bishop pair, and if you get the pawn back, you will be a little bit better.
So shall we start to be worried about Peter Svidler?
I mean, I like white's position. I don't know if it's that much. There are many great ideas for black, but you have to be really quick. Otherwise, I mean, I just want to take this guy on a4. And what should you do? I don't see any other move. I mean, maybe you have to go for this bishop takes and queen c3. And after something like queen b5, you can try to hold this kind of position, of course. Knight f6, bishop g2. And yeah, you will win this pawn back, but it's more or less an equal position. A little bit better for white because of the bishop pair, but you can try to hold this. Let's say, for example, e6 followed by something like knight to b5. Let's say if after queen to a4, now knight to d5 maybe.
Of course, we would never want to take this knight. Bishop takes d5 would be just...
Yeah, but if you don't take, I'm gonna take your guy here
exactly.
on e3.
So it might be the case where we are forced to, and even if we want to keep the bishops, we cannot.
Yeah, and boring chess, one of the users is asking, shouldn't be Peter playing e5 to create some counterplay? Actually, that's
Could
one of the ideas.
Because the e file with the queen on e2, this knight hanging on e4.
So as we said, rook a4 would be terrible because of e takes. But we were saying that d5 can close the position. You have a pass pawn. You can reinforce with c4. You aiming to take on a4 as well. So now this diagonal bishop is closed.
Everyone's saying in the chat to go back to Annan's game. What has happened there?
What has happened there? I mean, I don't see
missing something.
Any new move.
So why is everyone so excited about this game?
What's going on in Annan's game, guys? I don't see any new move here. Ah, g5 Annan played. Wow, g5. Annan is going wild here.
Oh, and h takes, queen c2.
Queen
Those
C2.
are the new moves.
What's going on here? I mean, maybe he thought he could go for rook c1, but the thing is, after queen takes d3, rook takes c7, there's always this queen e3 saving you. But still, this is quite interesting. What's going on here? We have a lot of pawns in this file.
Yeah, artistic.
You are gonna get this pawn back, and the structure is a little bit better for white. So after queen to c2, I guess now you can also think about going queen takes e5. Queen takes d3, and now queen takes e6 check. King h7, and can I give checkmate here? Something like king f2, you always have this check here.
It's a pity, yeah.
It's a pity. You can.
And if you go to h2 and then rook h1, king g3 would be a check, but it's just seems to be... No, I'm missing... the rook is hanging. Don't go. The rook is also hanging.
The rook is hanging,
We cannot do it. We would like to go two moves at the same time, king h2, rook h1, but we cannot do that.
Yeah,
This is
Anita,
a huge blunder. This is my blunder of the day.
Yeah, it's not your birthday, so you shouldn't give so many gifts to your opponent.
Okay, no king h2, no king f2. So what can we do here then in this position?
People are saying that Anand has forced a draw, so we would love to see
Forced draw.
how the position developed after queen to g5. I think, yeah, after there is a forced draw here, for example, queen to e5, queen to d3, and then of course there is perpetual, queen to h7, now queen h3 is just a perpetual check.
Does he have to give perpetual? Because how are we doing here? Same amount of pawns, and this d pawn is annoying. So here, the problem is that if you don't give perpetual with white, then black will just remove the queen from d3 with a check on e3 and start pushing the d pawn. So that would be a position where black is playing for a win.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe Vichy has forced a draw here. We still need the update.
Yeah, we don't know what happened on the board, but according to you guys, it has been a draw already.
This is the other option, of course, rook c1 and this endgame. Now, black is forced. I mean, he still can play rook f7 again, and there is a draw again after rook c8, rook f8, rook c7, rook f7. But you could think as well on going queen e3. But I think this is a little bit better for white because you will recapture this pawn here, and then look at this structure here. Look at this, guys. So sad. And this arrow is not possible.
Yeah, according to the chat, it was queen takes e5 that Vichy played, so it must be this perpetual forced draw.
Queen e5, and
I guess, and queen d3, and then he went for the perpetual.
Yeah, he went for the perpetual here. So, I mean, not a bad result for Vichy actually. I mean, he recovering from the loss that he suffered yesterday. But with white pieces, I mean, Nakamura didn't suffer anything. So, yeah.
Yes, in this position, because the users are asking us if queen takes c5 was good or if he had any other move. But I think after this queen g5, queen c2, I mean, he went for g5.
No, I mean, this is a forced draw already.
Maybe instead of g5, he could have tried Pepe's idea, playing rook c1, not giving up the pawn on... No, not here. You don't play g5, you play rook c1. That's what you suggested.
Yeah.
And try to play for c3, have this weak pawn on c7, also the double pawns e5, e6. Try to attack those pawns.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, after something like queen d6, it's not easy, of course, to do something. I mean, c3, you can play c5, and it's not easy, of course. But maybe here c4, b4, and then you can make use of this a file with rook a1. Of course, this is, of course, always a little bit annoying for black, yeah? There are some ideas with g5, rook a1. Still nothing, but, I mean, he can try.
It's the first time that I see a builder in front of the window that we have here in the studio.
What do we have?
Because there are some constructions going on next to this building, and there's a builder.
There's a builder there?
Yes.
We can invite him.
Don't you see his legs?
Wow.
Anyway.
All right.
Let's focus on Vichy's game. So maybe rook c5 pushing c3 was an interesting idea. The pity is that after g5 it led to a very forced position where it's white who has to go for the perpetual. If you exchange all those pawns and black ends up having this d passed pawn, that's a very dangerous passed pawn.
Exactly, so there is nothing better than to make a perpetual here. So, yeah, maybe we should focus on another game. Draw, agreed, between Vichy's and... who? Vichy and Nakamura, yeah? So let's...
This is going to be your quote forever now. Who with capitals, of course.
Who with capital letters, yeah? So let's go back to maybe Topalov versus Karjakin game.
Yeah, we haven't seen that game for a while now.
Wow, this is getting wild as well. We saw c4, it was an idea, because you cannot take here. I mean, you can take, and now the queen, you had to remove from here. So queen a1, we were analyzing these kind of positions, queen f5, queen to a1. But he decided to wait a little bit, and queen d2. Just want to develop the rook, for example, rook d1, e3, normal moves. And he went for g5 here. Wow.
What's going on? I've just missed it. I was reading the chat and now g5.
G5. So only
very aggressive move by Sergei Karjakin. Today is the only game where he's not moving his h pawn, but now
he will do. He will do.
Okay, he moved g5 instead. So he is playing really brave in this tournament. He played with black h5, then yesterday he played with white h4 without castling. So now g5.
Yeah, and you have no other square than h3, of course. h5 is not covered, you cannot take on d5. So knight h3 only move, and then you have to reinforce this g5. g4 is a terrible
You led back
move.
the knights to f4.
And now, what is this pawn doing here on g4? Nothing, right? So h6 reinforcing this g5 pawn, and now f4 by Topalov. The position is getting interesting. The point is that the g takes, queen takes. Now you have some weaknesses here on the king side.
Do you have to take with the queen?
Sorry?
Do you have to capture on f4 with the queen?
I mean here.
No, white.
Yeah, you can try knight f4 here as well, or rook f4. The point is maybe there are some ideas with knight to
The
g4
E3
and the e3 square, but maybe with the rook just to avoid this knight to g4. This is extremely interesting. I guess the critical line is knight to e4 or something. I have no clue what's going on here.
I just thought if we could keep the queens on the board, then it would make sense that the black king is weaker. But I agree that it's not so easy to take advantage of it, and this queen on e5 is a very strong piece. Knight jumps to e4. It's unclear.
I mean, this is really a double-edged position. I have no clue what's going on here. You have good center here, but you have this extremely weak king. I have no clue, really, guys.
Also, there are always b takes c4 captures. You have to know, like, if the queen moves away and then you threaten b takes c4, you have to pay attention to your king too. The h6 pawn can be hanging once the rook moves away, so everything is in the air.
Yeah.
At the same time, black pieces are active, so it's like it should be some kind of a weird balanced position.
Yeah. Instead, he played the safest choice. It's just queen takes f4, and after queen takes, for example, rook takes, and what are you gonna do about this knight? And then I wanna go b takes c4 in the next move. So maybe it's time to play the intermediate move c takes a3, b3. Sorry, a takes b3, and now for something like king to g7. And what about this endgame? Should be a little bit better for white, right? Because of this pawn here. And some ideas like rook d4, knight f4 are coming, or knight f2, knight d3, also knight c5, putting some pressure on the d4 pawn, d5 pawn. Sorry.
Yes, not easy. The good thing for black is that the e2 pawn is also weak, and the b3 pawn can be hanging at some point of the game. So there's some counterplay, but there are 4 pawns on the board for black, 4 pawn islands. So it's not like an ideal pawn structure, of course.
Yeah, this is. I also don't understand this position.
The builder is just going back and forth on the window.
Yeah. Hi. So, yeah, interesting position as well in this game. Maybe rook f4 is the other choice that we had here. Rook f4 here, and who knows what's going on. I have no clue.
Yeah, Adomino is saying that Karyakin didn't watch my video lesson about the middle game strategy, where we learned that you shouldn't really push the pawns in front of your king unless it's winning. So here, yeah, it could mean trouble if he doesn't get enough counterplay for playing g5. f4 immediately explodes the move g5 to open the f-file. That's what we learned, that once the pawn is so advanced, it's so easy to break through and open files, open lines. That's why f4 is a good move. G takes and maybe rook takes was interesting too, but this is a double-edged position. So
yeah, without the queens, the king is not gonna suffer that much. In this endgame, but still, it's extremely interesting endgame. He took here on b3, intermediate move. So after takes, actually he didn't take on f4 yet. Now after takes, for example, knight takes. Yeah, this seems to me better for white. So many ideas with knight d3, yeah. Knight c5, installing a knight on c5, or even rook d1, rook d2.
Another problem for black can be this a6 knight, because unless you can bring it back quickly with some knight b4, knight c6, but the pawn is always hanging on d5.
Yeah, and the problem
and
is
c5, rook c7.
Yeah.
So if you cannot bring the knight, then what will you do with this knight on a6?
Yeah, that's true. So you actually have to control the c7 square, because this rook can come there. So it's not so easy to play here with black, right? There's a weak square, e3. Maybe you can try to occupy it with knight to g4. Knight to g4, and then followed by knight to e3. The point is, what can we do? I mean, maybe we can play something like rook d2 after knight e3, rook c1, still knight takes e2, and for example, king takes e2. I believe this is still good for white. You want to go king f2 and still some pressure about this isolated pawn on d5.
I think we have some new moves. At least I can see Sergei Karyakin's king on g7.
Karyakin.
Yeah, in this very same game.
All right. Yeah.
You know, he's playing with the black pieces.
So he played king to g7. And what to do now?
He's not afraid of keeping the queens on the board because now white could decide to move away with the queen somewhere.
So let's say queen h4. Maybe it's really interesting, this
Yeah.
queen h4, yeah?
The black king is weak for sure. The question is how weak it is. Imagine if in this position the white knight was not on h3 but on f5. Now white would be just winning on the spot. So here the only good thing for black is that there are not so many attacking pieces and it's not so easy to, for example, find a knight maneuver to get to f5.
You can try to bring this knight back to the action via b2 and d3. And you can also, I don't know, maybe try to play something like g4. Is that crazy? And g5 later? I don't know who favors this idea. I mean, after taking on g5, maybe there are some ideas with rook h8.
Yeah, maybe it's the black rook also appearing there. Nobody knows.
What about this e3 move here? Sacrificing the pawn to bring this rook to the action. So king h1.
Interesting.
Yeah, some ideas here.
Yeah, now queen h4 is for sure something that Topalov will consider because once you don't exchange queens and this king can be really vulnerable, the black king.
Yeah, maybe the other idea is just to take here on e5, yeah, bring your knight to f4.
Yeah.
So this is more or less the same kind of endgame that we were analyzing. Rook d1, rook d2, this kind of position, knight d3, knight c5. I think it's easier to play with white here. And yeah, Pramod is saying, after queen h4, you cannot play queen to e3.
King g7.
Sorry, king g7, queen h4, queen to e3. But the point is, you just go to h1, I guess.
Then the f6 knight is hanging, so you don't have time for queen b3.
Yeah, so there's no time for queen b3 because this knight is hanging. And you have to do something about it. Let's say queen rook to d6. And now knight f4. And I don't see the advantage of having the queen here on e3.
The advantage would be if he has time for queen takes b3.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, queen takes b3, but now there is something like rook b2, rook b7.
Yeah, if the rook appears on the 7th
and there is
rank.
some knight h5 and rook takes h7, ba-boom! So
And now the king would be really in trouble, the black king. So you have to be careful about these g5 moves. That's why we learned in middle game strategy. Try not to push those pawns if unless it's winning, but on a top level, they understand it a lot better. So Karyakin understands that he has compensation in this position.
yeah, and Pramod is asking, what about knight e4 move? Yeah, it's interesting. I wanna guess what's going on here.
I don't understand it. I'm trying to see. Okay, we don't want to capture on e4 because that's the bishop you don't want to give up and queen e4. But what about
this? You have knight f2, yeah. This you have some checks here on g4. You have rook f3 as well. You have some other moves. Yeah,
it's an interesting move, knight e4.
Rook f3 looks natural, yeah.
Where do you go with the queen? We will have to go queen d4. I mean, you don't really have squares for the queen.
Yeah, you have queen d4 square, and now what? You can try to bring this knight back, for example. Yeah, this knight e4 is interesting. Maybe just rook c1. The rook is on c2 is not so well placed anymore. Now maybe it's more interesting to bring the rook to the f file to put some more pressure here. So this rook f3 followed by rook c1 could be interesting, yeah?
So you don't have to give up the pawn with e3 anymore to double rooks.
Yeah, exactly. So
very complicated position here, and also on Levon Aronyan's board. I see actually a tweet about it, about Aronyan's game.
Tell me.
Life Slayer has tweeted us asking, why on earth would Aronyan choose such a risky variation in such an important tournament, given his standing? Very puzzled. He's saying, it's true that Aronyan is on +1, and one would think, why is he risking it? The other thing is that sometimes I think when you're playing a game and you feel like this should be the good move. So I'm sure that he felt you have such a good intuition when, I mean, the world's best players have great intuition, and you feel that e5 is the good move, giving up the pawn, then f5, then you go for it because
of course.
you believe that you are playing the best move. So you play according to the position and not according to the standings.
Yep. And the position is extremely unclear. So it doesn't mean that he's completely lost. No, the engine says he's lost, but Caruana has to be precise as well in this position.
Well, Caruana can easily lose this game as well. I mean, everybody can lose this game, either Aronian or Caruana. We don't know who will win this game. Somebody will win,
Exactly.
we think. This is not a draw.
Yeah, you never know. The idea is that after d6, you cannot take because rook d1 was coming. So really precise by Fabiano Caruana taking on f5 first. Now you can take on d6 because now this idea of rook d1 doesn't work because the rook on f5 is hanging. After take on d8, just 2 rooks for the queen and too many pawns. So instead, now he has to play something like bishop g5, intermediate move, and after something like queen to d7, who knows what's going on here. Knight f6, bishop takes, rook takes, and pretty double-edged position. So many ideas. Rook f1 followed by rook h6 or bishop h6 followed by queen to d2 and queen to g5. No clue. No idea.
Really complicated. This will be a very exciting game. So no matter what the engine says that it's advantage for black, it's just completely unclear because the black king is in danger as well.
Exactly. I know you're also threatening to go rook d1 and pinning this knight here. So crazy position, guys. That's what we like here in chess.
Material advantage for black, but his king is weak, so he has to be very careful. And also, Arjun on Twitter is requesting a quick assessment of Anish Swidler game.
All right, so let's go. Let's go for that. Anish versus Peter Swidler. So after rook b4, Peter went for e5. Now it's clear he wants to open the e file, yeah?
Yeah, and it's good that he's creating counterplay immediately. He didn't really have time to start protecting this a4 pawn.
So I think it's more or less forced to close the position with d5. And this is actually a reasonable move. You avoid the opening of this file, you avoid the opening of this diagonal, so you keep these pieces without so much activity. And then you want to reinforce your post pawn with c4, maybe go on c5. There are a lot of weaknesses here. The a4 pawn is pretty weak. Maybe you have to go for this move, bishop takes c4 and queen takes c3. And I don't know what's going on here. We were saying that queen b5 is interesting, rook fe1. You're going to get this pawn back, you're going to get the bishop pair, so you are going to be a little bit better. But I don't know if that much.
I agree that I like white's position, but we don't know how much disadvantage is. It's for sure a pleasant position for white with a pair of bishops and this b5 hanging pawns. The a4 pawn is always hanging the b7 pawn. And we have a pass pawn already on d5.
Yeah. So, let's see what Anish plays here. I'm pretty sure that he will go for d5. There is also another intermediate move. I don't know if this helps white or not, but normally I would love to have this rook on the b file, putting pressure on the b7 pawn and also allowing this c3 pawn going to c4 in the next moves. And time trouble should be arriving soon, yeah?
Exactly, we are looking for that. And also we have so many questions in the chat. Let me read out some of you guys.
Okay.
M. Martinez is saying, guys, how much of creativity is still in chess at top level? In this tournament, I think we are seeing a lot of creativity. The problem with modern chess is that the engine analysis determines so much the openings that many times the creativity is because of an engine move. So I think the question is like how much they find on the board by themselves and not by analyzing the variations at home. I think these players are really creative, and we see a lot of fighting chess, so that means good news for us, good news for the viewers.
Yeah, and normally the procedure is that you normally think by yourself and then you test it with the engine, right? So yeah, I think there is a lot of creative moves these days. Yeah, the teams are working hard. I'm pretty sure about that, and they are finding new interesting moves, and then of course test it with the engines. So you cannot.
Unfortunately, nowadays you cannot prevent this. That you have to have it checked with the engine. No matter how nice your idea is, you need to check it with the engine. So today, for instance, Topalov had a novelty, rook b1. Then the other day, Sergei Kayakin went for a weird move, h4.
Yeah.
There are so many interesting moves. Now e5 by Aronya, d takes f5. That's also...
And actually, this rook b1 is not the best move suggested by the engine, for example.
No, it's just a creative idea.
Exactly. And I agree with one of the users, Black Bug. Everybody's playing 3 knight f3 in order to avoid the Nimzo, maybe, or in order to avoid d5 and this kind of extremely well-known positions.
I think they're just trying to find some other positions different from their previous games. They have faced each other so many times, these players. They have played the same elite tournaments. So I guess they just want to see something new on the board and not play always the same variations.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So now where to put your queen, Anita? Tell me. Queen d7, queen c7, queen a5.
I would be
Queen
worried about keeping it on the d file in case there's some rook d1.
Yeah, so...
But on the other hand, queen d7 attacks the rook on f5, so I don't know.
And the point is actually this queen on f5, sorry, so if queen c7 now you can play knight f6, and if bishop takes, you can take with the bishop. The idea is, of course, now you can take here, but after queen f5 there is just checkmate. Okay, you can try to escape, rook e6, queen g5, king f8.
But you're not really making it because there's this check and then
Yeah.
the rook is hanging, although the bishop will be hanging too, but
move.
this is more painful.
Yeah, rook d1,
Oof.
completely winning. The difference with the queen on d7 is actually you can take on f5. So that's why queen d7 should be better move because...
So is it queen c7 then a losing move?
Queen c7 seems to be a losing move because now knight to f6.
This is how dangerous the position is. One mistake and black is lost.
Yeah. So for example, queen c7 just lost on the spot. I'll take knight f6, bishop takes, bishop takes. This is just completely lost. The difference with the queen on d7 is that you can take with the queen now here on f5.
Exactly. So it's okay to give up the rook on f5, but not for the exchange of queens with queen takes f5.
Exactly. So one other move could be queen a5 because now actually you want to take this rook on e1. And then we have maybe a repetition here. Bishop d2 and queen d8, bishop g5. Nah, it's not gonna happen. So queen to d7 is the most natural move, I guess, asking this rook. But queen a5 is played over the board. And the question is now...
Queen a5, what's going on here? The rook is hanging on e1, the knight is hanging on d6, and the rook is hanging on f5.
So let's just see what happens if I just take here, queen to e1, rook f1, and you just go, for example, to b4, and after take, what's going on here?
Yeah, if we capture the rook, that means that we have exchanged tons of pieces, and we are 2 pawns down, 3 pawns down.
Yeah.
I can't already count how many pawns are there. So if knight takes e8, rook takes, that's the position that black would like.
Yeah, and then you can always defend the f7 pawn with queen c4. But I will just play queen f5. Queen to f5. This is extremely difficult.
How do you protect the pawn on f7?
Yeah, I mean, if you protect the pawn with rook f8, for example, you can just go knight e4 and knight f6. So it's extremely double-edged. So, but maybe you just can allow that queen to d4 check, king h1. Ah, you take the knight. Yeah, what am I saying, guys? I'm so bad player. I was just blundering a whole piece.
He's not a bad player, but sometimes we miss moves. It's just that everything is happening really quickly and we have to switch from one position to the other. So this position after queen a5 is crazy. Everything is in the air. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's the best move here for white.
So the thing is, could you try rook f1? Knight takes, rook takes. Is this dangerous? Just nothing. Maybe just rook e6, yeah? Avoiding all these kind of checks. You can always sacrifice an exchange in return again. So I think this is not dangerous. So maybe bishop d2. Just retreating your bishop. After queen b6, for example, what's going on? Again, this kind of knight f6 check. Bishop takes. c4.
I would love to see this bishop disappearing from the board because now imagine you go quickly bishop h6 and give mate. That's the plan.
I mean, I will be extremely scared with black here.
Me too.
So this king is much safer. You can just go to h1 And then you see the position, the king is really open here, it's really weak. So you have to be extremely precise here with black. I think it's much easier to play with white this position.
No matter what the engine says, this position is so difficult to play with black. That's what Pepe is saying, that we would be scared here playing this position with the black pieces.
Just don't pay attention all the time to the engine. I know it's saying -1 all the time, but it's so difficult to play with black here.
If Caruana manages to play the best moves, of course, he will just keep his material advantage, but it's not so easy to know here what is the best move.
Exactly. And I thought we had queen a5 on the board, but I'm not so sure anymore. In our webpage, still bishop g5, last move. So we'll wait for Fabiano Caruana's move. Let's just move to another game. Let's move to Topalov again. He decided to exchange queens, and knight for rook e7 was played. He wants to cover the c7 square now. Maybe he wants to get this knight active via b4, so then you cover the c7 square.
We said that we would need to do something about this a6 knight. You cannot leave it there on the edge of the board.
So now for me, one natural move would be rook d1. The question is, we have to be really careful about this knight to g4. So maybe, why not to cover this g4 square before? And now you want to go rook d1, bring your king to the center.
Someone's saying that they repeated moves. I hope he's referring to Vichy's game, because I don't want to see move repetition in any other board.
I think the only repetition I can find is between Vichy and Nakamura. There is also one possible repetition here in Aronian versus after queen a5, bishop d2, queen d8, bishop g5. This is also possible, but I don't think it's going to happen over the board.
Well, who knows? We hope that it's not happening, but if you are scared with black, you might repeat.
Yeah.
And is there any better move after queen d8?
And there are reasons to be scared in this position. There are a lot of reasons.
After queen d8, does white have any other good moves besides bishop g5?
Bishop g5. I mean, you mean?
Yeah. Do we have any other good move here for white? Like,
I mean, you could
if
think
white wants to continue the game.
Just going rook f2, but I mean, or something like this. But actually, the thing is, your rook is. I mean, you have to move your rook, or knight takes e6, for example. But this leads to nothing, I guess.
I'm afraid that we will see this repetition on the board. At least according to the chat, this is happening.
Wow, Giri played d takes e5. Extremely, I mean...
Yeah, we will go back to Aronian's game soon, because we just don't see the moves yet. So we hope that soon we will know what happened exactly. And in the meantime, in this position, e5, d takes e5.
D takes e5, what actually gives Spilder a lot of play on the e file. So for example, let's say knight takes e5. And for me, it was more natural just to close the position and just to keep these pieces not so active. Now, after d takes e5, both pieces are quite active, right? This guy here and this rook.
Exactly. We don't really understand d takes e5, but it's because we are worse players than anybody in this event. So d takes e5 for us was not logical, because you open the e file and the queen on e2 there, pieces pinned, the e4 knight could be hanging. That's why we prefer d5, but maybe this is more accurate. We don't know what's happening here after d takes, knight takes. Is that the main line?
Maybe he was afraid of something like d5, bishop e4, takes, queen c3, and then... I don't know, this looks quite interesting for white. I mean, rook a4, rook fe1, queen to b5. Every move looks fine for white. So he took on e5. And now,
surprising choice. We did not expect d takes e5.
And now, yeah, you have to be careful as well with white. So for example, let's just think a little bit. I want to, for example, play some stupid move like knight to c5. What's going on here? This is completely crazy. I mean, knight g4 is the most natural move for me. Just pinning this knight, this bishop here. So not so easy to make a move here with white. If you just take this guy on a4, what's going on?
Let's see what's happening on the e file.
Maybe just knight to g4, something like this. Bishop f4, bishop b5. Yeah, you have a lot of counterplay there. Sorry. Rook a4, queen to c6 as well, rook a4. And then there's something going on here. Maybe bishop g4. Wow, f3, there is bishop e6 back. Who knows? But what is clear, now you have a lot of counterplay. You have two active bishops. Weak structure by white here. So, a lot of counterplay.
Exactly. Maybe then d5 was better, but somehow Anish was afraid of the consequences of pushing d5.
Sorry?
Then maybe d5 was still a better move, but somehow Anish was afraid of the consequences.
Yeah, Anish didn't like for some reason. It would be interesting to know what he says at the press conference later. So...
maybe what you said, if bishop takes and then knight c5 and pushing e4 quickly to open the diagonal.
Knight c5, you mean?
Yeah. Can we? I'm just seeing if there's some rook c4 but then b6.
Something like bishop c2 and c5.
If you can go quickly e4 and attack this c3 pawn, is this dangerous?
Yeah, this could be dangerous. I mean, after c4, I still like white position here. Bishop c3, you can always go back to d1. You have the bishop pair, you can go rook b5, bring the other rook to b1.
Yeah, but maybe he thought that this knight is fine on c5, the pawns are blocked, the bishop has a good diagonal. I'm just trying to find an explanation for d takes e5.
Yeah, what nobody really, the user, nobody really, FIDE is saying, is maybe he wants to put a knight on d6 after rook d1. So let's say knight e5, rook d1. And yeah, he wants to jump here with the knight. The first move that comes to my mind is bishop g4, forcing f3. And then you close this bishop's diagonal. You just go back, for example, to e6, and then knight d6. What's going on here? Rook d8.
Yeah, it's important to force f3 with bishop g4 because now you see that the g2 bishop is not active anymore. And even though we jump to d6, we cannot really keep the knight on d6.
Exactly. And now maybe knight b5. But yeah, this is quite tempting as well for white. And after rook d1, queen to d1, you just remove your queen, for example, to e7. Yeah, this looks good to me for black. You're gonna go back to c6. You're attacking the a2 pawn.
As far as I can see, Caruana has drawn already against Aronian. So
really?
He must have repeated moves in that position while we were seeing that was a possibility.
That's true. So he went for queen d8, bishop g5 here. I mean, I understand both players here. Aronian is leading.
But he is on plus one.
He's on +1. He's in a really nice position. And the position is not so clear at all. And Fabiano Caruana, maybe the engine says that is better for him, but actually it's so complicated, this position. That
yeah, he makes one mistake, one slip, and the game is gone.
Exactly.
So he can lose this game. There's a lot to lose here. Yes, he has material advantage, but his king is really weak. So we understand both players. We said that we would be scared here with black. And for white, after queen a5, the best move is bishop d2. And when the queen goes back, what do you play there if you don't repeat?
Yeah. So maybe here, after bishop b5, queen a5, bishop d2, you have to go for this line with queen b6. But after knight f6, bishop takes, rook takes. This looks terrible, actually, for black.
So dangerous.
Maybe it's better for black. But, I mean, from the practical point of view, I mean, there are so many threats. So many threats here in this position. Let's say you just play a stupid move like rook a d8. For example, queen to c3, coming to g3, followed by bishop h6, rook f1. Wow, so many attacking moves here for white.
Yeah, this position is really complicated. No matter what the engine says, I think that Fabiano did not like his position. The king is weak. And it doesn't matter that you are material up if you get mated.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's something you need to avoid in chess. Yeah.
So then we have two draws already with repetition, both between Vishian and then Hikaru Nakamura, and now between Levon Aronian and Fabiano Caruana. That leaves Aronian with +1. The question is, will Karyakin manage to seize his advantage, or will he lose today against Topalov? Or
let's just check again this kind of endgame.
Yeah.
So after knight f4, rook e7, knight d3 is coming. Yeah, this is a natural move. You want to go to c5 maybe, some lines, just putting pressure on this b7 knight. My question is, what happens if I just occupy the e3 square? It's the only weak square that black can try to occupy here.
And that's a nice place for the knight.
This is really nice. I mean, this guy will be attacked. So, I mean, what to play here? Maybe something like rook f4, knight e3, and rook a2 or something like this. But this looks good to me for black here. Something like d4 even, after bishop takes, rook takes. No, this
there's counterplay because the b3 pawn, as we said, could be weak too. I'm still worried about the a6 knight, but I hope that at some point we can move it away from there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Another factor that the users are saying in the chat that Fabiano was also short on time. So imagine such a scary position without time.
With 5 minutes on the clock, yeah.
Because they made a draw on move. What move was that? Can we see what move it was?
Yeah, let's go back to Fabiano's game. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, so they still had to make 10 moves for the time control. After move 40, you got 50 more minutes, but to survive here 10 moves?
Yeah, to survive here 10 moves against Aronian, I mean, you have to be really precise, of course. I think it's a good practical decision from Fabiano Caruana. I mean, he's not with his best confidence after what happened yesterday, so playing this kind of position could be tricky, yeah?
Yeah, so we agree with Mark here. Mark Ginsburg is saying that queen b6 was good, setting up c4 check.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a good idea, so a very good suggestion. But imagine that he's short on time and the position is scary.
Yeah, c4 check, then you just can, I mean, you can play bishop e3, winning a tempo, for example, and then just planning to come with to f2 with your queen. Let's say, for example, queen to c7. Maybe queen f2 is just a terrible move because of knight e4, but who knows? Queen f2, knight to e4, queen f5 takes.
Once again, you give up
and
the
exchange. And then there is this check here, intermediate check, king f8. And queen to f6, there you want to go bishop h6.
Once again, everything down, exchange down and million pawns down. But the position is so dangerous that this would be winning once again for white, or is it?
I have no clue.
So
really.
yeah, this position, really dangerous. Fabiano Caruana without time, he did not want to take the risk of trying to survive here, and of course an endgame would be winning his material up, but first you have to avoid mating.
Yeah, and one question by Pramod again. Pepe, why did Topi play knight f4 d3 and not knight a4 b2? So let's go to that question.
So far Topalov is the one who has the least number of points. He's on -2 and Karyakin on +2. They're facing each other today.
Yeah. Exactly. And the question is, why he didn't go for knight b2 here, right? Knight b2, yeah, looks to me natural as well.
That's a nice maneuver. Of course, you don't want to keep the knight forever on a4.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he went for knight d3 here.
Maybe he wanted to avoid knight b4 because after rook e7, the 7th rank is defended. So black wants to go knight b4. And if knight b2, knight b4, then this knight can go back to c6, so it was misplaced on a6, and that's why knight d3 preventing knight b4. I think that's the idea.
Yeah, that could be the reason. Then you can try to go d4 and then just to free this guy here. Yeah, both maneuvers seems reasonable to me. This knight on f4 is of course more active than on d3, but on d3 you control the c5 square, you want to jump there, you control the b4 square. That could be the reason, yeah? The question is, of course, now, after knight g4, that was played already in the game, what are you going to do about this jump on e3? You don't have any active squares for your rooks. Any c7 is covered, c5 is covered. So
I don't know which color I would prefer here. It's just, I really like this outpost on e3 for the knight.
Yeah.
At the same time, black's pawn structure is worse. 4 pawn islands, 4 pawns, and all of them are apart.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I would prefer still white, I think. But let's say, for example, rook f4, knight e3, and for example, rook a2 or something like this. The point is, after rook c1 or something like this, you can just take on g2 and then win this pawn. So you have to keep the rook on the 7th rank. Let's say rook a2 is the only active fight that I see, because on b you have this pawn on b3 blocking you. Yeah, maybe you can take on g2, or you can play d4. I think it's very close to equal.
Yeah, in the chat I can see that Caruana had 5 minutes. Nacho is saying that, so he didn't have time to fight that position.
Okay, so 5 minutes in this position is, yeah, I understand what he did, of
Even
course.
if queen a5, bishop d2, queen b6 was the best, as Mark said, then with 5 minutes on the clock and such a sharp position,
yeah,
you have a lot to lose there.
Exactly. All right. So, any new moves in Peter's Builder versus Anish Giri's game? So Peter went for bishop f4. So many pings here. This knight's a pin. There's a ping here. What's going on here? He went for bishop d7. It's a reasonable move. You want to go bishop c6 probably, or maybe b5 even. And
I would like to have the bishop on c6, and it's protecting the pawn, but at the same time we control the long diagonal, where this g2 bishop was annoying.
Yeah, first reason you go bishop d7 is just to defend the pawn on a4.
Yeah, but then on c6 it would be really nice.
Yeah, it would be really nice on c6, just facing this guy on g2.
I start to wonder if white still has advantage, because before we liked white's position, but maybe after e5, this d takes e5.
Yeah,
it's a move that surprised us. We were expecting d5, and it seemed to keep the advantage. Now I'm not sure anymore with this e file open that white is still better.
Yeah, exactly. And we have an international master here, Mark Ginsburg from the States. He's saying after queen b6, white couldn't make any threats in Fabiano's Caruana game.
Yeah, Mark suggested queen
Not
a5
here, so
check.
where am I going? I'm getting crazy.
Mark suggested queen a5, not check, sorry. He suggested queen
Queen
a5.
a5 check to the rook, yeah?
Check to the rook, bishop d2, queen b6.
6. But what's going on after knight f6? I have no clue.
I don't know. I don't know what's going
I
on.
mean, if king f8, of course you cannot go because of knight d7. King h8 looks really risky. And after bishop takes, queen takes.
Yeah, Mark is saying that the funny thing is that after queen b6, white can't make any threats. But still we are scared.
I mean, I see a lot of threats here.
We are scared. We are not brave
I see
enough.
rook h6, forcing e4, and then bishop f4. I see queen c3, followed by queen g3 and bishop h6. I see a lot of, ideas for white here.
Also, there are some threats that are only in our heads, because once you are scared, you start seeing ghosts. So imagine you see real threats, and you also see some threats that are not existing, but you are afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think with 5 minutes on the clock, I would see lots of ghosts.
I will check his hand just for the draw here with black pieces. If I'm facing one of these guys, yeah.
Vlading is saying that there's a bromance going on between Caruana and Aronyan.
Yeah, so we're still waiting for some new moves here in this position.
Pramad is asking if in Anish Giri's position there was any problem with rook takes a4 before.
So here, rook takes a4. We were saying, like, for example, no, I think he could take this pawn. The problem is, what is the compensation? I always like this kind of move, bishop g4, forcing f3, and then just going back, let's say, for example, even to d7 or e6. This looks like a really interesting position. You have a lot of compensation, these bishops. For example, you can even think on going rook a8, exchanging a pair of rooks, and then a2 will be extremely weak. You have this c4 square. You are threatening to go bishop c4 in this position. Not so easy to deal with this bishop c4 move. Sorry, guys, with this strange arrow again. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of compensation here for black.
Yes, Breaker 90 is saying that I thought Swidler was doing bad, but maybe I underestimated his position. I think we all underestimated his chances in this position, especially after e5. Maybe that was the critical moment.
Yeah.
Rook b4 we really liked for white. The pawn is on a4, you threaten to double rooks. There's so much going on, but e5, looking for counterplay. And maybe this is the moment where it was better for white to keep the position closed with d5.
Yeah, of course you have to analyze this variation where you lose a pawn, but then you can recover it easily with rook takes a4. So yeah, and it's more or less natural that with d5 you actually avoid this guy getting activated and this rook. So it's quite natural, and then you create a pass pawn. So I don't see what I don't know what Anish saw in this line. So we have to wait until the press conference, of course. Yeah, d5 was a critical test, as Pramod is saying in the chat. Yeah.
Exactly. We are curious what he will say about it, and maybe we are missing something. But it just seemed like if White wants to keep the advantage, he should play d5.
Exactly. So.
What is going on between Topalov and Karyakin?
So yeah, he went for this knight g4. Knight g4, rook f4, knight d3, and rook d2. Okay, rook d2. And now the question is how to continue with black. I think he went for d4. This is reasonable. Finally, you remove this guy here.
You exchange those bishops. You have this beautiful knight on e3. Now the other knight on a6 is poor, of course, but that's the next step.
Yeah, but now you want to take on b3, yeah?
That's a concrete threat, so what shall we do?
I think there's no proper way of doing b4. It's not possible. You can take on b4. Rook b2 seems too passive. For example, rook b5, or you can even double rook on the b file.
You are so quick that I was still thinking b4, knight takes, rook b2, but you can double the rooks or... Oh, I thought you had wanted to play rook b8.
Yeah, I mean...
But, and you have many moves, not to
I'm
lose
not sure, but I think a5 should be enough, yeah?
Definitely. So there's no b4, then what do you do with the pawn? Knight c5?
Knight c5, it's possible, of course. It's the first move that I would think of. You have to be careful in this position.
Really
wow.
Careful.
There is rook c8 here.
What?
And if after knight takes, boom. And rook f1 checkmate. Yeah?
This is beautiful, but let's show the same variation by capturing the rook. I mean, I know it's the same, but if I want to capture something, I capture the rook.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So knight c5 would be a blunder because there's this not a mate. Knight on e3 supported by the pawn on d4 and rook f1 mate.
Exactly. So it's not as a rook c8. It's actually you have to go back to d3 to cover the c1 square.
But then we have only helped black, placing the rook on the c5, capturing the pawn on b3. Now knight c5 is a bad move.
Yeah, and rook b3 here you cannot take on d4. No, why not?
Something wrong with the white king again, or
no clue.
What's going on here?
Okay, that's not the end of the world, but rook e8, for example, it's good enough, I think.
Why rook e8? Just to avoid rook e4, or what's going on here?
Yeah, so, I mean, I have no clue.
Alright, let's not play... Let's see if there's anything else. Knight c5, maybe.
Okay. Instead of knight c5 here, of course, yeah.
Just not to step into rook c8.
Maybe you want to capture this guy, this pawn on d4.
That's such a weird move, knight e1.
Knight e1, you take on e3. I mean, for example, maybe knight to e5. This is more natural, yeah? This is more natural.
So you attack the f7 pawn. In case of rook takes b3, maybe we have rook takes f7.
Yeah. And let's say, for example...
Although, careful with the back rank afterwards, because rook b3 can be rook f7, and now once again there's this rook b1 threat.
And then you're gonna stop
so
rook b1,
you shouldn't forget about this threat.
You're gonna stop rook b1, actually.
So
knight b2, rook b8.
this is not working.
So maybe you just have to, knight to e5. The idea is also that you can capture this d4 pawn.
And then the e3 knight is not supported, so we are not getting mated.
Then this is a stupid move because you can take just the free foot. So.
But this is getting dangerous for white suddenly.
Yeah, exactly. So, wow, bishop h3.
What?
Bishop h3 was played.
He's not exchanging bishops.
Yeah, this is a move I would consider twice before playing it. Now you see the strength of this guy.
Beast there on the long diagonal cutting your king. Now the white king has hardly any moves, so we can only go to f2. Imagine a rook appearing on the back rank.
Wow, bishop h3. What's the idea here, Anita? Help me to understand.
Well, I guess he saw that after bishop takes, rook takes, the pawn on b3 will drop. so you want to avoid the exchange, but still...
Yeah, still the knight, the king is quite safe on f2, so no trouble. Then you control the g4 square. Maybe you want to remove the knight at some point. Now you are threatening to go
knight c5.
Knight c5, because now then the square
is
f1
there's
is
no
covered.
mate
Yeah.
on f1,
So
and also you take away the c8 square from the rook.
So let's say one really stupid move, f6, knight c5, for example, takes, or rook c8. Now it doesn't work because I mean this square is covered, yeah, and then this pawn is gonna fall.
So maybe bishop a3 is a very interesting move then. Avoids these rook f1 mate motives and at the same time threatens knight c5. But what happens if the rook goes to c7? Rook c7, is it possible?
This is really normal move. So you wanna go to where? You wanna go with your rook?
So far I prevented knight c5. That's good to start with, and then I will think.
Yeah.
Maybe I will go bishop c8, bishop b7, and we can repeat moves.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
if you go back to g2, we can capture it with the knight. So there's no repetition in this game, at least not today.
Yeah, let's say I improve the position of my king. Maybe. Yeah, and it's tricky, this position. I don't fully understand it. So now you're gonna move this knight because you have to cover the c5 square and b4 is covered. So pretty double-edged position, pretty unclear. Not double-edged, unclear. And maybe we should go back to Giri versus Peter Splitter game.
Do we have any new moves here?
Yeah, he went for rook d1.
Okay, planning rook d6. Knight d6.
Yeah. So now you had to think about this knight d6 jump. Maybe bishop c6 is interesting.
Just to prepare for exchanging those bishops.
For example, knight d6 now, you have this knight f3 baboom, yeah?
Oh, that's a baboom.
And then you capture the free foot on e2.
So let's not blunder it. After bishop c6, shall we... What can we do? Bishop c6.
Bishop c6. Now you're gonna jump to d6. That's the idea.
Okay.
It's a prophylactic move.
We will need to remove then queen from the e5 if we want to play knight d6, but then rook d8 is coming anyway.
What about queen c2? Is that bad? Is that bad, this move? Maybe there's this sending Fiona to the attack.
Once
f5.
again, Fiona.
Because after exchanging this light square bishop, the light square will be extremely weak,
Queen
and with this
c6
knight on...
to knight f3.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you have to capture here, and bishop takes, and when you remove the knight, for example, takes, and the c3 is hanging.
But now
Yeah.
this is a good bishop against a not such a good knight.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like this. I don't want this to happen on the board. So is there maybe not queen c2, bishop c6,
Bishop
rook d1, bishop c6, and something else?
What's going on here? I really like Peter's position here.
I think that I would prefer also black here, and I don't want to prefer black's position. I was cheering for Anish.
This position of the rook is so artificial now on b4. I mean, I don't know.
I still believe that white shouldn't really be in trouble here, but somehow suddenly it's more unpleasant for white.
Wow, and they are only in the move 25, so they should be.
Time
They're
trouble.
gonna have a lot of time trouble here in this game.
I think there are questions for you if you want to be a trainer. Some of the users would like to have you as their trainer.
I coach some people, yeah, but I'm so busy these days.
So they shouldn't contact you. You cannot get more.
No.
Cannot coach more people anymore. But we have a lot of video series and also live shows, instructive live shows. So actually, you guys, you have us all the time as trainers. We don't train on one-to-one basis because we don't have time for that, but we have our video series. We also have a lot of live shows, teaching live shows. So that's where you can learn from us.
Yeah, exactly. So rook b d4 was played here. Yeah.
We have
Tell
some
me.
tweets because Life Slayers told us 10 minutes ago that Giri had 9 minutes for 17 moves.
Wow.
So now the situation can be even worse because if he had 9 minutes 10 minutes ago, hopefully he was not thinking all the time.
And how much time does Builder have?
I don't know it. If somebody can tell us that, I don't have information on that.
All right, but
what is for sure is that Anish is in time trouble.
Looks like Giri is in time trouble, and this position is extremely unclear for time trouble. There are so many threats that you have to take in account. This f5 break, removing this knight, followed by son f3. What's going on? Let's just say, for example, queen to b6. This is such a terrible move, right? Queen to b6 looks natural to me. My idea is now I want to go f5 and then knight to f3. So let's say like h4, f5. This is winning or this is losing or what? I think, wow, this is so complicated. Knight d6, knight to f3 is coming. Wow, so what to play here? Queen to b6 could be a really annoying move for me if I'm playing this game with white and 5 minutes on the clock. Now you are threatening to go f5 here.
I'm really cheering for Peter in this competition, but I didn't want his first victory to be against Anish Giri because he's my other favorite player. I was expecting a draw in this game, but suddenly this is so...
That's what happens when you have a lot of friends in the elite. I don't have any, so I mean, I don't care, you know.
I'm sure that you also care, Pepe.
Yeah, I care a lot, yeah. I will.
You are a big Vichy fan.
I will cry if some of these guys lose today. Really.
So, what's going on in this position? I'm worried about Anish Giri.
So, for example, queen to b6. That's my suggestion here. I don't know if it's the best move or not, but I just want to go f5, sending Fiona to the attack f5 to remove this knight from the e file and then play knight f3. What do you play here? Something like queen to c2 to avoid all this kind of threats?
You should remove the queen from the e5 for sure, but what's going on here after f5?
f5, but now the
okay, it's not so dangerous anymore.
Yeah, I think it's quite dangerous because if knight d6 you can take here this guy, and of course if you take here on e8, wow, what's going on here at the queen c6 and then followed by bishop h1. This is so unclear position.
I completely missed this. What did you say? f5, knight d6, bishop g2, you give up the rook.
Yeah, and after, of course it's after king takes g2, I have this check here. It should be pretty annoying because then I have this f3 square. I have no clue. Maybe king h3, just sending the king to dance on salsa. but I have no idea. Rook e6 was played by Peter. Rook e6 was played by Peter, people are saying. So what's going on here, guys? He wants to bring the other rook to the action.
That's also logical. We were just somehow worried about this queen b6 position for white.
Yeah. I mean, was nothing special probably because it was my suggestion. But rook e6 looks natural, bringing the other rook to the action. The thing is, you can still not... You cannot move your knight yet, but... Rook e6. Ah, yeah, this is pretty natural. Yeah, it avoids maybe this jump. On d6, I have no clue. Okay, what's going on?
Not easy. I just see some funny comments in the chat. Stillian is saying Fiona and baboom.
Yeah.
And we have an information on Anish Giri's time. He is down to 5 minutes.
Wow.
Thank you for the information.
Anish, you have to move 50 moves. So that means 50 moves per 5 minutes, yeah?
I'm not good at maths.
Wow. 3 moves per minute for Anish Giri. 1 move per 20 seconds. You know, so it's not easy. Eh?
Yeah. All I understand is that he's short on time. I don't know how much he has for each move with the 30-second increment plus the 5 minutes that he has. I'm still bad at maths, so don't ask me anything like that. Papa knows everything.
I know nothing. Everything from the black market I got in my life. So what about knight c5 here? What about knight c5? Knight f3, I can take here with f3 and then your queen is hanging. So knight c5, what's going on here after knight c5? I don't see anything. So maybe you had just to go back to d7, yeah? And then what about if knight to d3? This kind of moves. Just putting a lot of pressure.
Black hole is pinned.
Okay, but then you have some checks here, some nice checks. Wow, maybe it's just time to remove the queen from the e file.
Maybe.
Maybe it's just time.
Our users are asking why Peter did not go for b5. They say that the most logical move for them to connect the pawns.
It's not logical for me at all here, this b5. I don't know why.
I think it's logical on the long run, but now this position is not about pawn pushes on the queen side. It's about this e-file, the bishop on g2, some check with queen c6 and knight f3. So, yeah, maybe later we would like to protect this pawn, but not urgent.
And what I see is this pawn is already well protected, so I think it's more important to improve the position of the rest of your pieces than this pawn on b5 maybe. I mean, it's interesting, of course, maybe it's what the engine suggests, but it's not a human move here. You feel that there has to be something else. You feel that you have to improve the position of your rooks, or that there is something related to this pin here.
Maybe an explanation could be that after b5 the queen is nice on b6, so with the same idea, your idea, queen b6.
Yeah.
But now, after having pushed b5, the queen is really cool on b6. In the other positions, maybe there was something on the b5. But anyway, we just really thought that something immediately, queen b6, or moving, something to do about f5, exchanging on g2, queen c6 check. Those are human plans.
Yeah, and that's true. Mac here is saying that it makes a lot of sense. It's not, the idea is not to defend the a4 pawn, but of course to establish a proper square for the knight on c4.
That's a good reason. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that you are so pinned here that it's not easy to place a knight on c4 there. And yeah, b5 makes sense, but rook e6 as well. The idea of b5 is not to defend a4 pawn, but to establish a nice spot for the knight. So, what's going on?
I see once again the main question of the day and the tournament. Where is Jan? And Spills is saying that, I know Jan is in the building, well, why is he not doing the main commentary? He is a very busy man these days, but he will join me, I think, at the weekend, because Papa is leaving me.
Yeah.
So
guys, yeah, I think you will be very happy about this.
Who will say ba-boom and boom and what else? Vichy drew against who?
Yeah, so you just had to see my ugly face just one more day tomorrow, and then I'm gone. So no problem. So yeah, so people are saying that there is some kind of repetition. Are you guys sure?
Who is repeating moves? Don't tell me that in every game we will see a repetition
wow,
of moves.
and I see some knight to g5 here.
Who is repeating moves?
Wow, there is some repetition here.
Oh, please, I don't want to see more repetition.
For knight g5, rook e8, and knight e4 here.
Why is it so good to go back with the knight? Okay, you want to avoid exchange of bishops? So
Yeah,
still,
of course. You don't wanna weaken your king here.
What an arrow is that? B7,
Yeah,
G1.
I keep inventing moves. That's what I do. So knight to e4.
Imagine if I will be commentating with Jan. Who will draw those arrows?
No. That's true. That's true. So yeah, maybe b5 is the move. Maybe something like b5, because after knight, rook e6, knight to e5, I think you can try also to go rook e7, knight e4 anyway, and then something different.
It's official, Swindler draws.
Wow!
Today, all the boards are about repeating moves. Exciting games, but somehow they end in a draw.
But why not rook e7 here? After knight e4, something like h6, or some stuff like this. Knight e6 is not annoying.
Especially knowing that Anish doesn't have much time. Maybe
maybe if Peter has 30 minutes or something, would be interesting to continue,
right? Yeah, we
right?
don't know how much time he has, but if they are both in time trouble, then of course we can understand their decision. This is once again a position that's unclear. You need to make a lot more moves to get the time control. Yeah, I think here I would be happier with the draw with white, because suddenly I feel like it's a bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
But anyway, this shouldn't be.
And you are short on time. That's one of the main reasons.
Maybe this position is like equal, but we just see more threats for black.
Exactly. Pramod was asking in the chat, what about if I just go here in this position, queen a5? Yeah, this is also extremely interesting. You want to go f5 in this kind of positions. Yeah, you put an eye on c3. I feel this position is much easier to play with black. You have more weaknesses here that can be attacked. One rook can come to the c file in the future. Yeah, so it's a pity that Peter didn't continue this game, because it was extremely double-edged, and for sure in time trouble we could have seen a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, of course we are not claiming that he has any big advantage, maybe no advantage at all.
Yeah.
Simply it's an interesting position. We wanted to see more fight. Now both players will still remain on 50%. They still need to win their first game if they want to win the tournament.
Exactly. Okay.
So we are left with one game.
We are left with one game, just Topalov versus Sergei Kalyakin, and I see some crazy structure here. What's going on? Bishop h3. They went for bishop e4, knight c5, takes, and f5, defending the e5, the e4 bishop. Now the idea is, of course, that after you take here, you can take with the pawn, and you have a nice center. You can create a pass pawn quite easily, and this knight here seems to be quite strong.
Yeah, it's controlling the h3 bishop actually.
So now you have to free your position with some g4. The idea is after f takes g4, of course, you can take here, and then this bishop is just hanging.
I think the users, all the Chess24 users are sad about your leaving, Pepe.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, they are saying, we
Trust
love
me.
you, Pepe. Pepe is the best. That they don't want Jan, they want you. Tell them why you are leaving.
No,
because you cannot tolerate my presence here in the commentary booth.
I'm gonna play somewhere, but I cannot say where.
Okay,
You
that's
know
a secret.
these team reasons. You
Team
cannot.
reasons,
Yeah.
league.
I had to play some tournament as well, and not just commentating. Otherwise, I lose all my my feeling.
Yeah, we compete as well quite often actually.
Yeah.
We should actually, all of us. If not, we cannot
If
see.
not, what's the
we
point,
cannot
yeah?
see the moves on the board.
What's the point of being a chess player if you don't play chess tournaments? So
Yeah, I'm afraid that Jan will not say Fiona, Baboom, and Salsa.
all right.
Some things that the guys are already missing from the commentary.
I feel that this position is kind of equal, I think. So maybe today we'll end up with 4 draws. And actually, all the games that we have watched in this tournament so far, they ended up pretty fast, actually. We didn't see any game ending like after 7 or 8 hours, something like this.
True. Although maybe the longest game so far was Peter's Rook game against Nakamura. But yeah, we expected longer fights. The games are not boring, so we are not complaining about that. Even the quickest draw between Nakamura and Anish Giri was a really interesting position. We cannot complain about that, but somehow the games end in a draw. In chess, it's unfortunately normal to play draws.
Yeah.
I think we have some new moves here after g4. Can you just update the board? F takes, bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes, bishop g6. I see on the board.
Sorry, just replying to one question. I'm a professional chess fan. I don't play in tournaments anymore. What's wrong with that? Nothing is wrong with that, of course. I mean, me as a chess player, I love to play chess tournaments.
And we have to play if we want to still keep competing. For instance, for me, it's obligatory to play chess every 2-3 months. If not, I'm out of the Hungarian Olympic team.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody can be selected for the Olympic team if you don't compete often.
Yeah. So you were saying, sorry, I interrupted you as
we
always.
have new moves. We have new moves in this game.
Oh, sorry, Anita. Oh, yeah, g4, free, making free. I mean, you have to free your position after f takes, bishop takes. Now you want to take this guy. Takes e4, rook takes check, bishop g6, and king f2. And we reached this position where actually you want to take this guy on d4, next move. And I'm wondering how you're going to defend this pawn on e5. One idea could be play just rook e5 and then followed by rook d5. For example, rook d5, b4, and now, for example, a5 or rook d5, yeah? What's going on here? You can never play rook d5. I'm blundering just knight e6, right? So rook d5, knight e6 check, and then you're losing.
You're getting tired here. What about then a5? I like the idea. You cannot move the b4 pawn,
The thing
we
is
are
maybe
undermining this pawn. And we are blundering knight b7. Okay.
Or no, I can knight b7?
I don't know.
No, just rook f5 check, and then I can just take here, right?
But
the rook. Yeah.
We've gone crazy.
Sorry, guys.
What if you move the rook to f8 with a check instead of rook f5, b7, a5, knight
A5.
b7,
Knight b7. And the people are asking,
rook
Jan,
f8 check,
rook
and
f8.
then you
Yeah,
take the
then
pawn.
you take the pawn. Yeah, that's another story.
We got it.
And people are asking, did Jan beat you in the Bundesliga? Yeah, he beat me, of course. He's much stronger player than me. And I was playing with black pieces, so it was a really sad game where he actually beat me in an endgame after 5 hours of play or something like this. Nothing to do against him.
Guys, thank you for all the challenges. I see that my Chess24 account is being challenged all the time. I cannot play Banter Blitz while we are doing commentary, so...
I did this.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you are
but not-
crazy.
yeah.
I mean, he went on a break, he announced the break in the Spanish commentary, and then he just started playing Banter Blitz, so that's Pepe.
But here we are in the candidates, so we should follow the
Take it
games.
seriously.
Yeah, all the time. So, how to defend this pawn on d4? Give me a hint. What about rook d5 first?
What
And
was wrong with our previous idea?
now a5. Yeah, this looks... Now
Yeah.
you control the e6 square with this rook, then this could be fine. And I guess this could end up in a draw. Like rook takes d4, for example, rook f5 check. And you just go to
And then
e1.
you take the pawn on b4 and we
Then
end
you
up
take
having
the
another
pawn.
draw. I thought that the trend was that there's always one decisive game in each round, but today it's gonna be 4 draws, it seems.
Yeah, it looks like if Topalov doesn't make any mistake or Karjakin, looks like we are going to have 4 draws. But actually, this has been a really interesting day. This game by Aronian and Caruana deserves a deep analysis. I think we saw a lot of typical stuff in this kind of openings, where this sacrifice with e5 followed by f5 occupying the interesting square in e5 with
That
the
was
knight.
certainly a very interesting pawn sacrifice. The only move I did not understand was bishop c1, but after that the position was just so double-edged that even if the engine says advantage for black because of the 2 pawns up, or 3, I don't even know how many pawns he had up. But anyway, material advantage for Caruana, but the position was so dangerous. The black king was weak, no time for the players. Yeah, that was the most interesting game of today. But the others were not boring either, of course.
Exactly. Meanwhile, we are so whenever we are getting close to the end, you normally tell me what's going on the next day.
Definitely, I
so
will
tell
tell
me.
you the
I wanna know.
pairings for tomorrow.
Because if nothing strange happens, Karjakin will continue being the leader of the tournament, the sole leader, followed by Aronian and
Yeah.
a bunch of people trying to hunt them.
Exactly, so Karyakin on +2 after today's draw, if he draws, +1 for Aronian, and the rest of the players with 50%. There's -1 for Nakamura and -2 for Topalov. If everything stays like this, if this game is drawn, and tomorrow we will see Vishy Anand against... Oh, let me click. Oh, I'm clicking here and there. Yeah, Vishy Anand against Peter Svidler.
Okay.
Topalov against Anish Giri. Aronian against Nakamura, and Caruana against Karyakin.
Wow.
Karyakin is repeating colors actually, so he's gonna be
So
black once
2 blacks
again
in a row.
for the leader.
So if he manages to save these 2 games with black, then he'll have more whites. Yeah.
That's dangerous. He's already on +2. So what do we expect for tomorrow? Anand Svidler.
Anand's builder, I would say a win for Anand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he might win today, but against Svidler, I'm expecting a draw. Topalov Giri.
I would say a draw.
Maybe it's a draw too. But it's gonna be an interesting game because Topalov will be white once again. He's repeating colors too, and now that he is back on track, got more confidence, I think he will try to win.
Exactly.
He was trying today too. He played very brave and aggressive. That's his style, aggressive chess. And today he will do the same against Anish Giri.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still expecting a draw because Anish is a very good player and he will not be scared.
Yeah.
Aronian Nakamura. That's gonna be maybe the most exciting game if we see the style of the players.
Yeah, exactly. Nakamura with black pieces. I would love Nakamura playing the King's Indian in this tournament at least once.
And Aronian is white again tomorrow. Why are they repeating colors tomorrow? Is it because Nakamura was black? We don't understand the colors. Yeah, but anyway, it doesn't really matter because they will play the same player with both white and black. It's just the order of colors. that we are a bit surprised about. So Aronian Nakamura and Caruana Karyakin.
Okay, so yeah, I'm wondering, so knight d3 was played in this game, so let's say for example rook g5, exchanging a pair of rooks, rook takes, g takes, this is gonna be a draw if nothing strange happened. Let's say rook a2, rook d7, this kind of position should be ended up in a draw, but you never know, you still have this knight that can jump somehow. I draw here, but we still have to wait, of course. I was about to suggest bishop takes d3 in this position.
I think we need to go on a chocolate break if this continues on this level, that we are blundering everything and make illegal moves.
Yeah, so we still have this game. What do you think? Should we make the last break before we end it? Or
but maybe it will end soon, so
maybe
then
we should wait, yeah?
We should wait.
Yeah, we should wait. So let's try to analyze this a little bit more. So for example, rook b5, of course, maybe knight f4. This is a blunder because now after rook g5, knight e6. You still have rook d6 here, but you could think on just taking here and then
grabbing the pawn, but the b3 pawn is hanging too.
For example, this move, right, and then after rook d3, you have this check here.
Okay,
actually, this wins again. Yeah. So first you have to take here maybe,
and then it's a check.
And then just a pawn up. So
something.
This is something. So rook d6 is rook b5 is not possible. So the normal move would be rook g5. Yeah, exchanging this pair of rooks, and rook a2 looks to me like the most natural move. Activating your rook, putting some pressure on the a7 pawn. Let's say rook f8 check to king to kick this king back a little bit. King to g3, and I have no clue. For example, rook e8 is even possible because after rook a7 you just moved your king to h6. Now it's time to defend this guy here. After rook a2 you can just take on d3, and then rook e3 check, taking this guy.
Back the pawn.
It's just a draw. Yeah.
It seems like it's gonna lead to a draw as well. Today, the day of draws, but no boring chess because all the games were exciting. So I think we shouldn't complain, even if the games are drawn.
I was a little bit disappointed as a spectator about
because of the repetitions.
About the Giri and Spilder game. I understand in the rest of the games, in Anand's game was pretty equal and it was, really solid position. But
maybe if he didn't push g5, he could also try.
And I also understand Fabiano.
Yeah. Actually, we have a tweet about that press conference. Universal Chess tweeted, Aronian Caruana press conference is the best. I like to mate with pieces, not pawns. I guess that's what Aronian said. Classic analysis.
And actually, yeah, he's really right. In this position, after something like queen to b6, this position, queen a5, bishop d2, queen b6. Yeah, he's got his 3 pawns down, if I count well. But it's extremely dangerous for black, this position. This pin here. You can go queen c3, queen g3, bishop h6, queen, rook f1.
Yeah,
you don't need pawns to give checkmate, yeah?
Such a sharp position, no time on the clock for the players. At least Caruana was on under 5 minutes in this position.
Yeah.
So we can understand why he wanted to repeat moves.
Exactly. So, in which move are we? In move 38 in Topalov versus Karjakin position. So they should be getting close to pass the time control. And then we'll see. H5 was played. No, rook f5 check, people are saying. Rook f5, king to e1 was played. And nothing else, I guess. And h5. H5 played.
Actually, according to the chat, there's only 3 minutes left for Karyakin. They need, well, but okay, they are about to reach move 40, so it's not a big deal anymore. Maybe before he had to be fast, but now they are reaching move 40. They will have 50 more minutes.
Exactly. Something like rook g3 is normal. And yeah, this is just rook d6, for example. You can try to play. You can never want you never want to go rook b5 because of this jump to f4. Maybe just rook d6. This is pretty solid for black. I don't see any trouble for black or white here in this position. maybe a little bit more comfortable to play with black because your pieces are a little bit more active. But yeah, it's gonna be a draw. Rook g1 was played. People are saying rook g1. Rook d6, for example. King x7, for example. Of course, you now want to go rook c2 and again activate your rook. So rook d6, rook c2, for example, and king h6, for example, just want to go a6, and just you have to control the jumps from this knight. Then if you do so, I think you are fine.
Yeah, Aaron is saying that he doesn't think that it's necessarily totally over for Topa. They can try to play on, of course. We are not saying that they have to make a draw here, but objectively, this position...
Maybe he means in the tournament.
Maybe. That would make more sense, because in this position, no matter how much you want to try, they are on this high level, this position is drawn. So we are expecting them to agree to a draw soon. And for Topalov in the tournament, yeah, nothing is over. There are still 9 more rounds. And he's back on track. He has regained his confidence, because I understand that after 2 defeats, it must have been very difficult for him. But he saved a very difficult position, a lost position actually, against Caruana.
Yeah.
And today he played in a very aggressive way. Tomorrow he's white again. So I'm expecting that he will bounce back. And also, of course, for Nakamura, the tournament is not over because of being on -1.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like, Peter, if it's true that he had more time, like let's say 20 minutes more or something, 5 versus 25 or something, I felt like he should have pushed. I mean, it's really easy to talk here, guys.
Yeah, for us it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy to talk.
We can take back moves.
Yeah,
and
we can take back moves. We can talk to each other. We can ask your help in the chat. But I felt like...
it felt like he could have. But on the other hand, it was just a really close to equal, if not equal position. And he had a very good advantage against Nakamura. That was really a game to play on, and he really tried. He pushed. He tried to win that game very much. He couldn't. Maybe today was really a tiny edge, if there was any.
Yeah. And people are saying that a5 was played. Do you think that maybe Karyakin could try to push this endgame?
Maybe. I don't see how, but he's the tournament leader, and there's nothing really dangerous going on against his position, so maybe he can try to push. Even he has got the bishop against the knight and active rooks. This pawn on d4 controls a lot of squares. Yeah. So if somebody is better here, then it's black.
Yeah, but also white has a lot of active squares for the rooks, a lot of open files. So I think, white shouldn't suffer in this position. It should be a draw. Yeah. So,
I'll see if there are any new questions to us. I see a tweet by Mario Gargon. He's saying, "Don't leave us, Pepe. You and Anna make chess more enjoyable for us." Thank you. We really appreciate if you guys enjoy our show, and we try to make this as good as possible.
Yeah.
But it's also thanks to you guys, because with interacting with the chat group, also your tweets, it's a lot more fun for us as well. And you help us, you tell us your opinions.
No, it's the only way I see commentating a chess game possible.
Exactly. Imagine we had to stay here for 7 hours just looking at the board, and then, that would be just a very different show. We really enjoy commentary thanks to you guys.
Yeah, in the Spanish side, they're even more active people. They get crazy, so that's what I like from the Spanish community.
But you also like our English audience.
Of course. I mean, people here are also...
The other day we read out the so many different countries where you guys are from, and that was amazing, because I think we read countries from all the continents of the world. So wow, when we asked you guys, where are you from, and you started responding to us, if you can still watch back that clip. I think it was round 3 commentary, and at the end of the show we were asking you guys, where are you from, and it was so impressive to see the different nationalities gathered here, and we are all united because of chess. So I think that's really amazing about chess. We are one family.
Yeah, okay. So rook c2 was played, people are saying. Yeah, you need to activate your rooks. Now you want to go rook c6. So you had to do something about it. Let's say you play something stupid like rook d7. Now rook c6 would be completely winning. rook x6. So there's a nice tactic here, guys. I hope, I think a lot of you already saw these tactics, these nice tactics here. So what's a combination that gives white an advantage here?
Tactics trainer, 3, 2, 1. Time is over.
So time is over. Rook f6 and rook g6 winning on the spot. There's this little nice jump, 95, and then just collecting all the free food. So looks like some people are saying that a draw is agreed between Topalov
Already?
and Karjakin after rook c2. Yeah, something like rook d6. I mean, this should be enough for a draw, of course. Position is completely equal. So looks like we have officially another draw.
4 draws for today, but very exciting games. So let's not complain, guys. Even when the games are drawn, the quality of chess is really high. Everybody's fighting. That's the spirit. And tomorrow, as we said, we will see a lot of exciting games. Every round is exciting here. Anand against Svidler, Topalov versus Giri, Aronian against Nakamura, and Caruana against Karyakin.
Yeah. So I think if this is the case, that we can close for today.
Yeah, let me just see if there are any more questions before we leave.
Yeah.
In the chat. I see that Pramov is a fan of Lawrence, your flatmate.
Yeah. So tell me, there are any more questions?
Let me just see, and if not, then we will see you guys tomorrow as usual from 1 o'clock Central European time.
Yeah.
With round 6 already of the candidates, but there are so many rounds left, so 14 rounds in total.
Exactly. Long way to go. Still, a lot of rounds to be played. And Karjakin in the lead, followed by Levon Aronian.
Exactly, the rest of the players on 50%, except for Nakamura, who's a -1 and -2 for Topalov. But so many rounds are left, nothing is over. Everybody can win this tournament still.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will be back tomorrow from 1 o'clock Central European time with round 6 of the candidates tournament. That will be the last day of Pepe, and it's gonna be his birthday.
Yeah, that's true. I'm getting.
So stay here. Come back tomorrow to celebrate Pepe's birthday in the live commentary on the candidates tournament, and his last day in the commentary booth. So
Yeah.
see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys. Have fun and see you tomorrow. And thanks for all your comments. Bye bye.